Hello and welcome to the European Challenger Series Summer Split Week 3. We are now officially halfway through the round robin. My name is Richard Pulse-Cam and I'm here joined with this guy, James Stress O'Leary. Let's quickly review the results that took us from the halfway point yesterday with Tuesday's games. So the first game we had Team Dignitas EU taking down Mouse.
We did. That was a pretty... I want to say it was a little bit closer than expected, but you know, Team Dignitas put in a very solid performance yesterday as well. The second game of the day, very, very close between Gamers 2 and Ex Nihilo. We'll get into that later as well. But in our last game, another game we'll get into in our third game of the day, Denial demolished Overclockers. So that was a very, very one-sided performance.
And with that demolition, how did that affect the standings? At the very top, it is Team Dignitas EU, as always, 5-0, with the middle of the table having Denial eSports and the Mouse eSports, and followed by Ex Nihilo and Overclockers still yet to net a single win.
That is a painful position for those two to be in.
It is indeed. But now we're up to date. This is the schedule for today. As always, the teams will be swapping up their sides from Tuesday. So Mouse will be going up against Team Dignitas EU, now on the red side, with Ex Nihilo versus Gamers 2, and Overclockers versus Denial will round out the day.
As always, though, to stay on top of lineup changes, match schedules, as well as all of the games in full from Tuesday, head over to lolesports.com.
And while you're there, make sure to check out the new Challenger article entitled The New Top Idol, where Beansu discusses Galio's strengths and weaknesses, and Wince talks about the rise of Runeglaive Ezreal.
Oh, Runeglaive Ezreal.
Yeah, a terror in the middle lane, Stress. But on to our first game of the day with a top-of-the-table clash between Mouse eSports and Team Dignitas EU. First off, let's shoot through those lineups. On Mouse eSports, it is Beansu in the top lane, Dan in the jungle, Sayo in the mid lane, with Sedge in the mountain, the dynamic duo that never leaves in the bot lane.
And over on the red side, it is Team Dignitas EU, with Wonderwear in the top lane, Obvious in the jungle, Senkux, Cobby, and Nisbeth to round out the lineup.
So it's pretty interesting because despite the team's positions, I really don't think that the teams are that evenly matched. Like, Mouse has faced the bottom and mid of the table teams, and then Dignitas have played the top and then the middle of the table teams. And Dignitas have looked better in all of those games. Yeah,
I completely agree. And, you know, when we look at Mouse in-game, they tried the things like the Galio. They've been trying these different styles in each game, but they haven't really found their groove yet. No real defined style for the Mouse lineup. So when you look at what they've been playing every week, there's always been something new mixed in there. The one kind of gradual trend they've had is the hard engage component that they've always been seeming to play out of the jungle. But I think the one player that we really want to look at is Sayo in the mid lane. And the question is he stepping up enough, really? We saw him play Azir last week, 9, 6, and 7. Decent stat lines, but I don't feel like he's doing enough to kind of carry the team.
Yeah, is he enough? That is the whole question here. And it's interesting because you were talking briefly about the Mouse composition. Yesterday, they picked a very hard engaged composition to counteract the Ezreal. Then they picked two squishy picks in the form of Varus and Ashe. And then they had a team that could protect the Varus and Ashe. So they had this like strong outer shell, which is really interesting because picking squishy targets into an Ezreal doesn't usually seem like the thing to do.
Yeah, really strong engage though at the same time, which was one of the things. You mentioned Senkux, he was playing Runeglaive Ezreal, and you can see how much focus they wanted to put on the mid lane right now. Early kill onto Sayo.
Yeah, and the early lead in here, it was just through all metrics for Team Dignitas, even through the outplays from Senkux as well. All that Mouse wanted was a kill.
And all Mouse wanted in the rest of the game was team fights, because that is where their composition shines. And you can see that at this point, they're able to turn this team fight and take their first dragon of this game.
Yeah, really utilizing the composition well. And this refocused Mouse then stabilized the game on both turrets and were able to steal away the dragon. And this brings the count even between the teams.
It does. At this point, Obvious is being picked off, and Mouse think they can go for the Baron, but they don't respect the late game damage from this Ezreal. You can look at just how many items he's gotten. He's able to just completely pick people off again and again as Mouse lost focus.
Yeah, great flash and dashes from Wonderwear all the way through this game, even in this very last clip. And it was just Team Dignitas taking control while Mouse were floundering for the last couple minutes of that game, but still put up a good fight against the top team here. We did have some players we wanted to highlight. Wonderwear was one of them, 9, 3, and 11 on that Shen, had a ton of assists, set up a bunch of team fights with those flash dashes.
Yeah, and so many turrets fell because of what Wonderwear was doing across the map. Dig really using the pressure very well. Good to see Wonderwear having a great performance. And speaking of great performances on Dignitas, once again, Cobby kind of puts his name forward alongside this, but we kind never really let go of the importance of the support there. But 6-1 and 9 on Corki once again.
Yeah, looking a little better than Cedrin, who, to be fair, did pick a team pick there rather than just for the laning phase. Was 4-4 and 3 on that one, and did have some good engages. Did also see a lot of Ash arrows fly off the map, but can't hit them all, right?
Can't hit them all, but Cedrian came back in. Remember, he was out last week in our broadcaster game. The team weren't quite able to get him into the game, so it was nice to see them have Cedrian back. He did have quite an effect on the game, but again, I just feel like he is battling so many different opponents when it comes to inside his team as well. Because they're great when they can play as one single unit, but whenever it's down to one player to kind of push things forward, it can be a struggle for Cedrian.
Yeah, truer words were never spoken, Stress. But I'm interested in the Ezreal here because it has been a highly contested pick in Challenger yesterday. 100% pick and ban in all of those games. He was picked twice in 10 games in EU LCS. One of those was actually forgiven on AD carry as well.
Yeah, the third game, was forgiven. The really curious thing about that is North America played it so much more. They actually picked it in 7 games. One was AD carry and banned it in 1, so 80% pick ban rate out of NA. I'm expecting the 100% pick ban to continue here, but the most interesting thing so far is Team Dignitas have banned the Azir away. Yes, we spoke about how good Sayo's was, but I would argue that Senkux's Azir has been way more dominant.
Yeah, just making sure that, I guess, Sayo doesn't have anything, because we know how big the pool from Senkux is, that he can play basically anything. Gragas comes out as the next ban in from Mouse eSports. Rek'Sai will be the one against Mouse as well. Yasuo is the final ban. Obviously, it's Senkux.
Yeah, obviously it's Senkux. We saw him play it last week. Interestingly, we've also seen Yasuo in solo queue building Runeglaive, because the way the calculations works is it changes the overall crit damage into magic damage. So you basically get this massive crit and chunk people.
Not okay.
It's so insane to watch. Kalista is the last ban, which leaves the Ezreal open at this point. Now, the question is, 100% pick ban so far. Is it first pick worthy for Mouse at this point? And I honestly feel like it has to be.
Yeah, also it denies it from Senkux, so I mean, it seems like the logical first pick here from Mouse, but then it opens up Mouse to be countered by Dignitas with these hard engage compositions we've been seeing from teams to counteract this. So there's the Ezreal. Now, how do Dignitas respond?
That's a good question, because at this point, do you take away the Corki, for instance, which removes a big poke aspect from the AD carry role, especially with Kalista banned away, it would leave them with a Sivir, which is okay, or do you pick the Sivir and go for hard engage? That's something that Team Dignitas now have to decide. 2 junglers off the table in Gragas Rek'Sai means everybody is now shifted down onto that next tier. Echo is available should they want to play him in the jungle. There's certainly a lot still to play with. We are on 5.12 currently. We have not moved over to 5.13 yet.
Well, you've discussed, do they run the Sivir or hard engage? Why not just run both? They pick up the Sivir, they pick up the Sojani as well, just going to try and dive on the Ez. Yeah,
the Sivir is going to work so well with the hard engage. This is a big statement now that Team Dignitas are kind of abandoning the poke aspect of the meta that we're seeing and going straight for Sayo in that middle lane. Should really be a difficult time now for Mouse to keep Sayo alive without some really hard disengage. You're looking for the likes of Janna, you're looking for the likes of, well, Gragas is not available, so those are your 2 main meta ones, and Janna gets locked in.
Janna will be the next pickup from Mouse, along with the Rise as well for top lane. So again, we're seeing the poke in the mid lane, the AP in the top lane, but again, Team Dignitas, they're abandoning the poke, yes, but we've seen how effective the engage compositions have been. Looking at NA against Bjergsen, you play a full dive composition, you take away Bjergsen, goodbye team composition. So it's just all playing around that pick. It's just a question of, do they go all in on this? What else could they pick? They had the top lane available, a Maokai could work, a hard engage from Annie. It's just all going in for this hard engage.
Well, we'll see what they do, in fact, lock in. Interestingly, Rise has been played a lot, obviously in the top lane, a lot when we see the Jace and the Varus. Now, Mouse is stacking a lot of magic damage. If they bring a Corki into this, they will be lacking AD. That is something they have to watch out for. The Team Dignitas don't just end up stacking MR. And talking about hard engage, those are three of possibly the hardest engaged champions you can get, only missing a Malphite at this point.
Yeah.
Maokai, Annie with the Sejuani and the Sivir. If Team Dignitas catch 1 or 2 people, they instantly should win a fight if their ultimates are available.
They should, but as we've heard in the LCS again, it's all about trying to get that lead and getting on top of them, because if you're not the one being proactive, then the poke team will just poke you out all day, and there's very little you can do about it. Mouse just have their AD carry to pick up here, along with their jungle, so we'll see what that's going to be here. Swapping through a couple different things, but what options are available to them? What do they want from this?
It's Dan. Lee Sin, Jarvan are his 2 main junglers when Gragas, Rek'Sai are not available. Echo is not up. We did see him play Echo. We have seen him play Zac.
Or Rammus. Or anything,
Rammus.
really.
True, Rammus is the other one.
Yeah.
We've known Dan for so long that we know that he's had these kind of 5 or 6 champions that are his top champions for a very long time. That's a Renekton picked up. Wait.
That has been locked in as well.
Hang on. If we assume Ryze is going to the top lane, so the easy one is bottom lane is locked in. I don't think it'll be the very, very old Season 3 Ezreal jungle that we saw, but I think it was Nintendo Dex, NALCS Season 3 Summer Split. I don't think that's it, because of how strong it is in the jungle.
Or the Zhao mid lane Ezreal with the Triforce and the Ludens. I'd see if we see one of those this game.
I mean, we'll see the mid lane Runeglaive, I would imagine. Does that leave us with like something like a Renekton jungle? I mean, he's gotten like basically no crowd control without getting. Yes, he has 1 stun, and that is it. He has to get into lane, which means you have to hit the first part of Slice, which is a very short range to get the dice, then follow up with the stun. I imagine he'll have a lot of damage, but this is something we do not see. Renekton, to be honest, Renekton alone, we don't see in general.
He's just been phased out of top lane.
We saw it once in EULCS. I think it was the game where Giants did that funky swap with Pepinero to the AD carry.
Oh,
and because he wanted to face Reckless. So I think that's like one of the only games in Europe we've seen Renekton in a very long time.
In Season 5 at least. I remember a long time ago, I believe Shook took it into the jungle, but that was like Season 3, Season 2.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
So long since I've even seen this.
By the way, there was an Ahri
there was
from Team Dignitas EU, but yeah, all right. So we did see some swaps, and we didn't see quite where it's been locked in, but we are about to in a second. So if it is the lizard in the jungle,
it is. It is.
Okay, it 100% is the lizard jungle. Let's see what it does. I mean, Dan likes his interesting jungles. We've seen a lot of different variety from Dan. The question is here, with this different pick, does it add more value than another pick that he could have gone for?
Right. So we spoke about it. They need additional AD at this point because they're very heavily magic damage. Obviously, it'll give you that. I imagine the early game clear should be pretty good from a Renekton. Yeah. His early game has always been his bread and butter. He's going to get to a point where he doesn't die particularly fast as well, so he will fulfill a tank role. I just don't know how it's going to go with the rest of this kind of poke composition. Like, I mean, you're looking to siege a tower, and you've got a jungler that is not particularly providing any kind of mass crowd control. It's not providing poke like a Nidalee would. Nidalee has been such a high proponent. Couldn't have gone for that, though, because of the heavy magic damage. So we're going to have to watch to see how Dan actually plays this Renekton out into the game.
Yeah, especially for the early game. I do want to look at Team Dignitas EU, though, because we touched on it in Champions League before the Lizard came out, but they're going all in to try and kill the Ezreal. They have the Sivir, they have Sejuani, they have Maokai, who's all going to run in. Got the Annie, even with the Tibbers, flash stun. And then Senkuk's actually picked up the Ahri as well as his fallback.
Yeah, which we have seen Senkuk's on in Spring Split. We have not seen him on the Ahri yet in Summer. Yep. I like this composition out of Team Dignitas. It's not exactly a composition that says anything other than we want the Ezreal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be very hard engage. Maus have to pick fights very well as we get into the mid-game.
Well, remember to hop on Twitter and get your opinions in on this very interesting matchup. Tweet at LOL eSports. Use those hashtags MOUWin or DEUWin to get your votes in, and we'll be checking in on what you have to say when we get in-game. But Yeah, there's a lot to go on in the very early portions of this game. Like, as you mentioned, Renekton in the early game, lots of base damages, so I don't have a problem with his clear.
No.
It's just a question of what he does for the rest of the game.
I am really interested to see how this Renekton is going to go.
Me too, Stress. Well, let's get into it. Mouse Sports up against Team Dignitas EU. And Mouse Sports now onto the blue side of the map. We'll be trying to get out of here. Thank you, Jana. And Sencook's on Ari. Okay, obvious now on the Sejuani jungle as well. Seen a dip in popularity, but when Gragas and Rek'Sai are off the board, then she does come back into contention. Sayo moving on to this Runeglaive Ezreal. We've seen it from Sencook's. Interestingly, we didn't see it in the eSports Festival at all. And then the following couple of days, in the first day yesterday or Tuesday, we saw it 3 times in a row. So the team's all holding the Runeglaive Ezreal back just a little.
Yeah, the Runeglaive has started to come out, though. Still 100% pick band, as he's mentioned. Yesterday's stats for Sencook's was 4-1-9 on the Ezreal, 13 KDA. So, very strong performance from him. And we saw it really undo Mouse as this game went fairly late. So it's now... well, it's not Sencook's on Ezreal this time. It's Sayo, as you said. I was
yes, sir.
Busy kind of looking at my stats sheet on that one. But Sayo, we'll see whether he can live up to the 13 KDA from Sencook's from yesterday.
Yeah, or even Godbro. He played very well on the champion until he walked into 5 people and died. So, yeah, very strong pick. Dan and Beansu walking into this jungle. Prehistoric Renekton as well. Very nice.
I mean, I kind of... I can see where this Renekton will have its strengths in the early game. I mean, I wouldn't want to skirmish a Renekton particularly much. Especially as a Sejuani. I would not want to take that fight in the early game. So there are certainly aspects of this Renekton pick here that I can see will work. I don't know how much it's going to do within the overall composition of Mouse. As I said, it's not really a champion that is going to be able to siege. It doesn't have any kind of global components. You can't run a 1-3-1 with it. Well, I mean, yeah, you can use Ezreal to clear side waves, but that's about it. And it's just a really weird one for me, that there were so many other junglers available. It's on Dan now to make this Renekton work.
Well, we'll see what his impact is in the early game. At least Sedge in the mountain to take the Crooks down there. I didn't see if they did it perfectly. No doubt Crepper will be yelling in the distance about how they didn't do it quite correctly, but we'll see how that one works out. Cobby and Nisbet as well in the bottom lane with that Sivir and Annie. But up to the top lane, we have Wonderwear and Beansu with the Rise against Maokai match. I have to feel that's going to be fairly farm-centric for a large portion of this laning phase.
And it's really interesting that Wonderwear would pick himself the Maokai into this matchup. That's a heavy trade bot lane, though. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think those auto attacks were really worth it then, Nisbet, but he's got those cookies to eat through and get back up to full HP. Meanwhile, Obvious sitting in this top, looking for this level 2 gank with the red buff. See if we can get it off.
Does Beansu step forward?
Try.
Yep.
And the boar is out.
Well, this is a drawback with having 2 junglers that are not efficient at ganking in the early game. I mean, Sejuani, you would have to flash in to really get that gank to work. And honestly, this top lane, I feel like Obvious is going to have to sit up there with Wonderwear for quite some time. This matchup, while it's okay at the beginning of the game for Maokai, does get progressively harder for Maokai to actually sit in. He will start falling behind the Rise as we get later and later into the game. So if Obvious doesn't set Wonderwear up early, we're likely to see a repeat of what some of the lower table LCS teams have been seeing with the Maokai, where it just doesn't scale well enough into the game.
Well, looking between these 2 teams as a whole here, Stress, you can see how well... or rather just Cobby and Sedge. We were talking before the game about which AD carry is going to be stronger here, and we might see these 2 AD carries in just a second as Dan looks for the flash, the slice, looking for the dice onto Cobby, trying to reduce his KDA here. Tries to get the Ruthless Predator down, but doesn't quite land it, and now you're seeing the limitations of Renekton. Yeah,
that really is just kind of the summary of how Renekton has to go early game, is you have to expend so much to try and get a gank. To touch briefly again on the stats we just saw, one of the biggest points is that Cobby overall has more kills, but is involved in less of his team's kills. It's only about that 75% of the actual kill participation he is, whereas you look over at the side of Cedrian, the team relies on him way more with 83.1% kill participation. So even though Cedrian gets fewer kills, Mao's rely on him a lot more.
But then you look at both of the AD carries, and both teams rely on their AD carries a lot, just straight up. So now Sayo in the middle lane up against Senkux here. The Ezreal will basically just want to farm for a lot of the game here, or a lot of the laning phase. At least Senkux does have the ability to kill him, but needs to land the charm, which can be difficult since Sayo is going to be so far back just farming with Mystic shots.
Yeah, I really am interested to see whether Senkux can put the pressure onto Sayu to begin this game and, you know, hold him back from actually becoming the monster that Runeglaive Ezreal becomes. I mean, it's a 2-item spike that Runeglaive Ezreal really works off. It's that Ludens after the Runeglaive.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can actually really prevent an Ezreal from getting to that point. Not without heavily shutting him down. I think inevitably he ends up reaching that and then kind of, yes, it'll take longer for him to get a Rabadon's Deathcat, but his control over side waves is such a difficult thing to manage.
Again, the slice and dice in the top lane, but can't even get in range for Cold or Meek on Dan. He's already burnt the flash in the bottom lane, so he's had some presence on the board trying to get these ganks out, but these are just hard lanes to gank for a Renekton. Yeah,
very hard lanes to gank. And just as a clarification, by side lane wave control, I mean for the enemies to manage. It is very tough to stop an Ezreal just true shot barraging a side wave, burning it all away, and having pressure in other maps. But yeah, as you mentioned, Dan just is not able to get anywhere on the map. And we talked about his early game presence. He is slightly down on jungle farm. Both junglers have kind of been ganking a little bit, and now Dan is actually taking farm from that mid lane while Sayu was away. So really, Obvious has had nothing stopping him from just kind of getting to that level 6 mark and having his ultimate available, at which point Team Dignitas have a very clear spike in their presence on the map. Once Sivir ultimate, Tibbers, and the Sejuani ultimate are available, there's almost no way of stopping Team Dignitas engaging.
Well, I did say about the limitations of Dan's Renekton in the bottom lane, but to be fair, he did burn 3 summoners, which means that Obvious is going to take a little while to go down there and really get an ult off and have the bot lane be able to follow up from Team Dignitas, since Annie can't really get in range and instantly stun both Sejuani and Mountain.
Right. That is very true. The only thing I'd say about that is if Dan doesn't get back down to this bottom lane and actually put that into effect, it doesn't have too much of a lasting effect outside of the fact that look at the CS numbers between the AD carries. 61 CS to now 40. That is a big difference that is because of the flashes being unavailable and the amount of harass that the Mao's bot lane have put down. But I certainly feel like it's not going to really impact the Tibbers because Annie is only just level 5 now. So the flash will become available by the time the Tibbers is up.
Obvious, heading into the top side of the map, has been seen out by his ward, so Binsu is going to walk away. Actually make it very obvious that he knows that Obvious is there. And Obvious will go back into his jungle. A lot of Obvious going on. But Senkux just matching Sayo as he heads over to his blue buff. Dan will be assisting with that. As Binsu's harass coming in from the ultimate, the combo just means machine gun, mage at the ready in top lane. 56 farm to 66, however, so he is falling slightly behind Wonderwear, but he's got a wave to farm.
Yeah, a lot of it is because Wonderwear hadn't backed like within the last couple of minutes. Now he backs, finishes off that catalyst, and you'll see Ryze's CS start to tick up kind of in response to that with the time spent out of lane. Interesting to note, Wonderwear is not teleporting back to lane, whereas Binsu did teleport back to lane. So there is about a minute and a half window now for Team Dignitas maybe to look for a play bottom lane if they can get a ward out behind. But look at Cedric going aggressive. They know Cobby's alone.
Getting a lot of damage and a last missile barrage as well. Cobby did not spell shield any of that just in case the stun came out. But yeah, that was a lot of damage from Sejuani, which is pretty much what they want right now. They need to try and open up an advantage in the bottom side of the map so that they can force something, maybe with the Renekton, or at least stop Team Dignitas from going for a dragon themselves. This is a lot of poke. There comes the stun from Annie, but nicely shielded from Mountain. Pretty back and forth lane, but Obvious now sending this blue buff over to Dan. Top lane still trading off, putting the damage onto the Maokai, and that is a lot of damage.
Yeah, and remember this is Ryze on 512, so it will take a little more time to actually get himself into the game. Now you end up actually maxing Q, which is why the damage seems a little bit more heavily prominent this early on in the game. 4 points into Q means you trade a little bit better, but you stun for less early game. And the reason you max Q is because of the changes that were made to the passive. Now, the duration on the Arcane Mastery goes up with each point in Q, so it actually starts at a base level rather than starting at 6 and staying there.
Yeah, so you have to max both Q and W to reach very scary Rise status, but you'll get there eventually. This is a very hard scaling team as well. When you take Sejun out of the equation with Sayo and Beansu, just does those two members alone have a lot of late game punch. Sejun as well doing well in this bot lane. And Dan waiting for this gank to maybe happen. He has his flash back up, but he flashed when Kobe and Nisbet flashed, so he knows that they have their flash as well. He might just be able to burn some more summoners, which would just again give the advantage to Cedrian. We're talking between these two AD carries as well about where the strength really comes from, because Cedrian and Mountain I feel like work better as a unit compared to Kobe and Nisbet, who Nisbet puts a lot of the weight in the bottom lane on his shoulders. But looking at the fan vote, 79% over to Team Dignitas EU. Not a bad bet considering they are 5-0. And yes, they've struggled in a couple games, but have always come out on top when it comes to the late game.
I normally would like this play. The problem at this point is, actually, obviously, his top side of the map. They didn't actually spot him unless they saw him on the mid lane ward. I didn't quite catch that. So, no, I actually do like this play out of Dan and Sayo, because this is the thing. With two champions with a gap close, you just get over that wall. But now Dan is caught.
Oh, Sencooks wants him. He's ticking down from the Ignite. Is it going to be up? Yes, it is. First blood goes over to Sencooks. And Sayo could just not do enough to respond. And it looks like Team Dignitas will be able to take a tower mid lane with everyone collapsing in. And Beansu did use a teleport top lane to stop Wonderwear from pushing.
But I think Maus will take that as long as his tower doesn't die. You saw the True Shot Barrage come out a little bit earlier just to go through mid lane. However, Team Dignitas with 3 people here will be able to take this one down. And they will extend their gold lead, which is a weird one. I kind of wanted to touch on that before the Dragon play. Bottom lane, in fact, is where we're going. As Kobe pops his ultimate, they're looking to get onto Cedrian.
Trying to get in range. Valkyrie is available just now. Will be flashing away. Wonderway gets him, though. Then comes the ultimate from the Sejani. Obvious over the wall gets him with a stun and a lockdown, and picks up Cedrian for the next kill. 2-0 in this game. Team Dignitas pulling ahead.
Well, we said it in Champion Select. If they land one part of their crowd control, they are basically guaranteed to follow it up with the rest of their ultimates. And you can see right there, just the Twisted Advance necessary to follow it up with the Glacial Prison, as they will follow that up in that bottom side of the map and look to push onto the bottom lane, but that minion wave is dying pretty quickly. They do... Oh, Tibbers dies as well.
And the smite from Sayo will clear out the rest of that with the blasting smite. Do you see those mid lane Ezreals typically go for that, the Trailblazer, just to get extra mana and health back when they're just passing by a camp? In jungle, Dan is actually up towards the Cinderhawk with the Skirmisher's Saber on Renekton. Interesting. But yeah, just in this game in general, Team Dignitas EU, this is not as fast-paced as it was yesterday. We saw so many kills being picked up in the first like 10-15 minutes. It's a little slower in terms of kills, but the objectives have started to be pushed in from Dignitas. It's a question of, again, does Mauser's composition come into effect later into the game, what we saw yesterday, but in a different composition?
So there's kind of 3 different points in the game where we see these kind of compositions go to. The early game really didn't favor too many people outside of Dan, and then Cedric and Mountain a touch. Team Dignitas now are in their point of the game where they can turn the pressure back on. Sivir being a little bit behind is slightly problematic, but her ultimate is always going to be useful. Also, Morellonomicon now with boots on Ahri is a good spike for her, and the fact that the ultimates are now available, they can drag things to team fights, benefits them. But as you alluded to, the later this game goes, Ryze and Ezreal will continue to just get stronger and stronger, and we've seen what a 6-item Ezreal can do. You can see when a True Shot Barrage just 100 to kind of like 5% health people. It is so difficult to deal with, and Sayu is only just on Runeglaive, has just picked up the Aether Wisp to go alongside it, so still lacking the needlessly large rod. He's a long way off his power spike.
Yeah, unlike the composition we saw yesterday from Maus, Sencooks and Nisbet are very open to being hit by a stray True Shot Barrage. Kabi, this time on Sivir, he'll be able to spell shield it, as it is fairly telegraphed as it's coming towards you, and obviously Wonderwear are super tanky, so there are still 2 members on this team who can get caught out. Talking about getting caught out, or not getting caught out, is the bottom lane, Valkyrie away, and the flash from Mountain.
Yeah, and it actually was a I want to put it down to a good read by Nisbet, knowing that they were running away, had the flash, didn't use Tibbers with the stun, only used the W, so he gets a flash without expending his ultimate. That's a key factor from that little trade in the bot lane.
And Senkuk's picking up the blue once again. Has advantage in the mid lane. A bot lane is going heavily over to Sedrian, still opened up to a 40 CS advantage from the 20 we saw earlier. Senkuk's trying to get a bead onto Sayo. If he can connect a charm, he can pretty much land everything else. He's going to be jumping in with the Spirit Bush, looking for the charm, forces the flash out. And Sayo is that summoner down. That is pretty important for the next 5 minutes while that's on CD, because the Dragon is going to be up underneath that cooldown in 2 minutes' time. And Wonderwear and Obvious, well, they have their ultimates, and Wonderwear is able to just point and click CC the Sayo down.
So the gold lead is obviously the one turret in favor of Team Dignitas goes a fair way to this, but there's a very weird kind of distribution of gold right now. There's actually a surprising lead when it comes to Sejuani over Rek'Sai. Their farm isn't particularly different, but you can see that the time that Dan, Renekton, not Rek'Sai, that Dan spent in a lane just taking lane farm here and there is actually made his gold totals ever so slightly lower than some of the camps that Obvious has been picking up. He's been picking up, you know, more gold per minion or monster that he has picked up. On top of that, he's got the assist to his name as well, so it actually relates to a fair lead for Obvious out of the jungle, which we were expecting Renekton to have a little bit easier a time in the early game.
Speaking of that, Renekton, he's picked up the Crystalline Bracer, so presumably he's on his way towards a Righteous Glory, just to kind of run at Team Dignitas EU more. I guess that would be the pickup.
I mean, the other option from it would be a Warmogs, but I don't know whether that would be particularly... well, I mean, it would be a good item against mixed damage, but that's about it. I kind of feel like if they wanted to go aggressive, the Righteous Glory would be the right pickup here, but at the same time, they're running a poke composition.
I was going to say,
this is the kind of comp it works in.
Yeah, Nisbet, great ultimate onto Mountain. Good luck with that Monsoon, mate. And Mountain will be going down. Third kill of the game over to Team Dignitas, and this time they should be able to pick up that bottom turret with no real difficulties as the shift onto Beansu, the lockdown. Dan comes in just a little too late, and the Lizard may be going down as well. Pops the Dominus, but it's slowly getting chunked by Senkuk's and Wonderwear. Wonderwear will tank for days with another twisted advance. And now Sayu's heading into the top side of the map, but I'm not even sure 1-on-2 if he can win.
No. I'm going to go with no on this one. No ultimate available, so that is a big part of his damage at this point, not available for himself either. And I just don't quite see these last pieces of the puzzle fitting together for Maus. How does Dan on Renekton help his poke composition other than just kind of tanking crowd control? Which, when you've got so much AoE crowd control and real hard dive when it comes to the engage from Maokai on a single target point and click that you cannot really stop, that is just so difficult on this champion.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's gone for the Merc Tread, so maybe he is just looking to sit in front and tank Senkuk's charm. Is that just his goal in this game?
At that point, you have to put... Oh, Sayu. There's the charm.
Oh,
and
flash into the charm. Can't miss a point-blank charm, especially when Sayu has no flash away. And Senkuk's with the 1v1 outplay.
I mean, at that point, you have to put your front line and your back line, because you're running kind of a longer range composition. They do have a little bit of distance between themselves. Wonderwear, where's he off? He's going to the bottom lane.
Oh, well, someone's going to die here, and it looks like it's probably going to be Sedrian. Comes in with the Arcane Smash, and another teleport coming in from Mouse, but is it too late? Maybe not. Beansu gets the full combo onto Nisbet and Kobe, but it's actually not that much damage, and Nisbet will take the front of it with another lockdown from Wonderwear, looking to kill Beansu. Senkuk has roamed in from the mid lane to pick up the kill with the Foxfires. Sedrian has been cut off from the pack and is looking to pick up a kill onto Kobe. Did manage to get the dangerous game out from the Masteries. Wonderwear looking for the chase onto Mountain. Doesn't connect the Arcane Smash.
Oh, True Shot Barrage coming down the lane.
Who will it connect to? It gets Wonderwear and flies right past Kobe. Whew. He would have been able to spell shield that, but he just sidesteps it instead.
Man, that was a very extended fight from that first teleport coming in from Wonderwear, but you can see again, just the lockdown that comes from Team Dignitas, that MOUZ, even with the teleport coming in, that all they were doing was buying enough time for Team Dignitas to bring even more people to the bottom lane, and then eventually take the fight for themselves. 8-0 on this game right now for Team Dignitas is a real tough thing for MOUZ to overcome. So this was right at the beginning of the fight that we saw. And you can see Senkux is already on his way down. There is no real help on the way coming from MOUZ at all. Dan is way over on the top side of the map, and Ezreal is still not even available. So this is a fight that Team Dignitas know they can just tank all of this early game damage. Little precarious between Kobe and Cedrian, but just sidestep the phosphorus bomb, and that's so much of the damage not available for MOUZ. And it's just Team Dignitas exploiting MOUZ with the picks that they got earlier and making sure that they always have the numbers advantage.
I guess the question now is, are MOUZ just being too predictable? Because the Ezreal was left open, MOUZ first pick it, and then Dignitas do exactly what they should do. They counter pick it with this entire composition. This is one of the first times we've seen MOUZ Sports as well go for a very meta composition. They've very much gone for off-meta picks, like this Renekton, but like as an entire composition, like a Galio, something different to throw off their opponent. This time it's going with the Ezreal, going with this late scaling composition, and it's just not working out for them because it's so easily read.
Yeah, it truly is. And honestly, when you look at how the compositions work out, there is a telling fact of just how early in the game Mountain has had to pick up a Quicksilver Sash on Janna. This is something we've started to see more and more when it comes to playing against hard engaged supports with a Janna. You have to be able to disengage. You have to get Monsoon off, and if you're locked in crowd control yourself, there's no way you can do it. And that is a real early QSS as well. Not even the Talisman completed, and we'll see whether it plays any effect in here for Mountain.
There it is, an obvious now coming in, but he has more CC. It's going to be used onto Binsu, and Senkos comes in with the Spirit Rush and the lockdown from his team. Kobe on the backside, using on the hunt, will be getting his team in range, looking for the Righteous Glory as well. Senkos just comes in with the straight charm, trying to find anyone who's just sitting in that bush. 1-0 trade over to Team Dignitas EU, who look to posture around the Baron.
And I don't know whether MOUZ can do too much about at least Dig clearing out the vision here. There is almost nothing they can do about Team Dignitas just setting up a bait and just allowing MOUZ to come in. The problem with that is they have so many abilities that can check bushes here that baiting is very difficult. You see the Janna Monsoon to kind of disengage as well. They can just use whatever they need. Ezreal Qs just to poke at bushes all day long. So it's going to be tough to catch MOUZ out off guard with that kind of play.
Yeah, Kobe did not use his spell shield there as the ult came in from Sayo. Did have the entire area warded as well, so it literally just wasn't fast enough on the trigger. Cedrian in the bottom lane, still maintaining the CS advantage for all the good it's doing him so far. He has the Triforce, but he is falling behind Kobe even with those 5 assists and just the entire game going the way of Team Dignitas. Has that Infinity Edge, hasn't got his second item just yet. Looks like it will be the Shiv. And looking towards the mid lane as well. Death Cap now completed by Senkux in the top lane, as the aforementioned Righteous Glory. In the jungle, Obvious has gone for the Aegis into the Locket, up against all this magic damage, even from the Corki. And that's another problem that you mentioned in Champions League, Stress, just the sheer amount of AP that this MOUZ composition has. And the only real threat is Dan, who's going to scale off as well.
Yeah, especially when you build tank on Renekton. That was always the problem of Renekton anyway, was even if you started building just that aspect of damage, whether it was the Brutalizer, whether it was the Blade of the Ruin King we saw for a while, or the Tiamat, you didn't have enough damage as the game went later and later to actually do anything, and you become very ineffective in team fights, because all you're doing is running around, dealing a little bit of damage and passively dealing damage around you, which yes, he will do the same in this kind of situation, but again, it's not actually kind of smoothing out that curve of where the damage is coming from. But one way that they are kind of counteracting that, Cedrian opting for the Blade of the Ruin King kind of build. This turns, we've seen this quite a bit recently, it turns Corki from that kind of poking, rocket heavy AD carry. Still has the damage coming from that, but turns more of a focus onto the auto-attacking tanks and just taking whoever's in front of you down.
And he will need to do that, because there is a very tanky Wonderwear who is 204. and Obvious as well. And they have found Renekton. He'll be flashing away, pops the Dominus, but looks like he's pretty dead to rights here, looking for more CC, and of course Team Dignitas have it. They also have damage from Senkooks as well. The flash into the lockdown onto Cedric, Mountain and Beans who try to put down the damage as they retreat. Sayo has now joined the fight as well, but Nisbet is the one taking point. Kobe coming in from the sidelines, does have the on the hunt, gets the move and speed out. The flash into the bowler, does not connect, flashed away by Mountain, but not before Beans who gets taken down underneath the turret. Sayo returns fire, but it's not enough to deal any real significant damage.
Oh, in every single one of these trades, Maus just get their flashes burned really early, and then Team Dignitas just flash after them, and it's so much more valuable, that aggressive flash from Team Dignitas, because of how much crowd control they have to just pick up the kills again and again. It just seems like Team Dignitas' flashes are worth so much more. Early flash pop from Dan, he has to try and get away from this. But there's not really any way he can. Another flash from Team Dignitas. Keep the counter up. There's the third of this engage. This one onto another carry, and they pop Cedrian so quickly. Again, all it is just buying time. They're using these picks to just completely pick apart the Maus lineup.
And yet another Twisted Advance.
That one probably, the flash from Obvious, probably the one that didn't seem to
add value,
add too much value. But at that point, I think 3 for 1 is, well, 3 for 1 on flashes is pretty good. But I mean, what can really stop Team Dignitas right now? A Sayo ultimate could steal it away with a mistake from Team Dignitas if they don't smite it down. But there's a lot of things for the ult to cross paths with and reduce that damage early on. Also, no wards means it's going to have to be blind. Here it comes.
Oh, close. Down to 240 HP before the smite came down. So
yeah, that was close.
Good try.
Points for effort.
Yeah, absolutely. A for effort. In terms of results, not so great, but either way, 0 and 12 is this game. Last time we saw these two meet, there was a comeback from Maus, but under very different circumstances. And there's no real point in this game unless this drags on for a very, very long time, where Sayo and Beansu will start scaling up. Team Dignitas, this is only 26 minutes into the game, and we already have 6,000 gold advantage, with pretty much the whole board going over to them. Nisbet, that's a very fast Annie, gets the lockdown onto Beansu, and all the damage to follow. He's dead before the fight even starts. Dan, the big tanky front line, actually tanking pretty well for his team as the damage comes out, in with the Essence Flux, and all the damage from Sayo. That was a 2 for 1, but Wonderwear got blown up, and everyone else from Dignitas is low.
Here's the point at which the Ezreal is becoming very dangerous on this map. You can see Obvious, I guess his recall cancelled as well, and now Cedrian's going to try and chase him out. But the fight turned on its head there, and it's all because of just the damage that Maus were able to put on from the focus that Team Dignitas had on the front line. If Team Dignitas aren't able to get the carry with their crowd control, it is difficult for them to fight these fights if they go longer and longer. And that is what happened in that fight, but I think that's going to be maybe a one-off here for Team Dignitas. I don't know whether they'll have that problem once again.
Yeah, maybe turning more focus onto Sayo. I mean, we know that they have the CC, they have the technology. Sayo going into the top side of the jungle here. He does do a lot of damage, and that Smite as well will be getting the extra bit of vision in the top side of the jungle. Anything they can get right now is good, but despite that fight, Team Dignitas are still pulling further ahead. Now 6,500 gold. There goes the Ezreal off the map, and didn't even kill all of the minion waves, so Kobe will be able to do some damage to this turret before some poke comes out. So the annoying thing about Ezreal, just one skill shot has to land, and you'll have boss gone.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
Very frustrating to play against. Very fun to play, but
yes.
Frustrating to play against. You can see that Sayo has had to opt for the Void Staff very early on here, because look at the magic resist here, and Team Dignitas, they want to go.
It's flanking time.
They don't actually have to. They don't have to pull that trigger yet, because they still have the Baron buff running. Only one person has lost it from that engage. Only one person has died, you know, from Team Dignitas in this game. So far, and yeah, Void Staff was necessary because look at the magic resist items that have already come out from Team Dignitas. They know they can predominantly itemize that. Look how little damage the ultimate just did to Wonderwear. Did more to Kobe, but it's to be expected.
He does have a spell shield that he'll want to start using at some point. That's 2 out of 2 ultimates, which have landed onto him, but there's another engage onto Binsu, this time underneath the turret. Is there enough return fire from Mouse to do anything against Team Dignitas? Sencux comes in for a play, looks to take down Cedrian, gets his target. Double kill comes out for the Ahri. 16-1 right now. Tib is now tanking the turret. Running out of minions, though. But Dana Mountain, not a whole lot they can do without Sayo with mana.
Not a lot at all. And that's the inhib going down. And I'm still struggling to see what the Renekton is offering in these sorts of situations. That charm landed.
Oh, Sayo, he just wants to ult. He only just got it. That would have been a juicy triple had they lined up there, but unlucky charm to the face.
Unlucky. I guess unlucky if you're a Mouse fan at that point.
Yep.
But
skilled E from Sencux if you're a Dig fan.
Yeah, exactly. So Dan is going to try and get himself on the board, or at least get some farm. As I said, kind of alluding to, I don't see what the Renekton did in this game, at all. Because at this point, he goes into the fight, and he looks to lock down one, but he just doesn't have the crowd control to do anything, and he has to just run straight back out. That is all Dan did, was go in, try and crowd control one person, takes a lot of damage, runs back out. And at that point, Team Dignitas are already just pushing down the turret. There is no real return damage, and look at how close this charm was from Sencux to Sayo avoiding it. It was close, but easy one for Sencux.
I don't think you need to sugarcoat that. It was no close about it. It was right to the face.
It was there. It was right in the face, square between the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it might have been a little bit further away, but that was an easy charm.
Literally just face first into it. But yeah. So Mal's losing that inhib here, significantly behind in this game. What? Off the map. Didn't even tag the minions.
I mean, consider at this point that the one place that Mouse have had the lead in this game has been AD carrying. They had a fairly significant lead on that, with regards to farm, but they had not been able to get Cedrian into the game. The problem with the rest of the Mouse composition is it had these really janky timings when it came to where each champion had their strengths. They had two scaling solo laners, plus a mid-game AD carry who wants to group on a Triforce with a jungler that doesn't particularly offer anything too much at that point. That's like 4 of your champions have completely different objectives in the game. And you just are against this heavily focused mid-game team that just go, right, we're going to run at you, and then I hope you brought disengage.
Dan,
like this.
Does not have a whole lot of disengage, but he is able... No, he's dead. Binsu now running away from the fight. Sayo, the whole back line is just trying to run away from the big, angry Sencux. May get taken down. Cedrian jumps in aggressively, maybe for the cost of his own life. Or maybe Wonderwares. He'll jump underneath this turret, but he has the team behind him. The flash into the Arctic Assault will keep the lockdown down. And 3-4-1 again. Team Dignitas maybe looking to come in for the kill. It is Sayo against the Onslaught. Will Team Dignitas go for the easy option? Yes, they will. They'll go bot lane, they'll take down that turret, and slowly close out this game.
It's been a very comfortable game for Team Dignitas on this one. I mean, really, they have not been pressured out of this at all. And, you know, it kind of goes to show that you cannot just say, hey, we'll play poke and win, because there are ways to play against it. We've seen so much poke, so many poke compositions. You know, people have even been kind of quoted as saying that, you know, it's the best quote-unquote League of Legends to play. I think that was Monte Cristo saying that. But it's difficult to play at the same time, and there are easy counters. Look at that engage coming out from Team Dignitas. You stop all of the damage coming out from the Mao's team, and then from there they're too low. They cannot take this fight, and it's only because Sencux goes over-aggressive into 2 people to try and pick off Sayu and the other carry that they actually get punished for it. I mean, Mao's first picked the Ezreal. Team Dignitas clearly gave it over to them with their own plan in mind, and it's worked out sublimely so far.
Oh hey, there seems to be a team behind you. Malz, Kobe and Sencux in tow, trying to take down Cedrian. Rest in peace his KDA. Binsu trying to get away from this fight. I think he might just do it, but Sayo has been locked down. Talk about lockdown. Get taken down by Kobe. And Dan as well, just trying to run away from this fight, not even able to even keep himself alive. But Cedrian had a 24-7 and 25 before this game. This game he's died quite a lot, so his KDA is suffering quite much.
Yeah, Beansu was taking a lot of damage from that super minion as well, and was not able to kind of kite back. So now he has to go all the way back to the base, run back out. He doesn't have his level 3 enchant, doesn't even have a third item completed, and Team Dignitas are going to push for the win.
Yeah, that was just extremely clean cut in from Dignitas in this week. Another 2-0 week makes them 6-0 overall in the round robin, taking down Mouse eSports. Again, just another solid victory.
I would even go so far as to say more than solid, dominant at that point. I think this is the Team Dignitas that we have come to expect, and quite frankly, I would imagine we're slightly disappointed with a second place finish at the Esports Festival over in Belgium this past weekend. It was Denial that won that. Team Dignitas look like they're answering back, because remember, Mouse is that middle to the top side of the table right now, and Team Dignitas just did that.
Yeah, I mean, like, who challenges Team Dignitas now out of the remaining games in the round robin? Pretty much no one. And then you get into playoffs, maybe Denial will be able to do something. If they rise up, they should be on the other side of the bracket and maybe challenge Team Dignitas later on to the split. We've seen them actually make significant gains in terms of how good they are throughout the split. But yeah, so far, Team Dignitas, pretty good.
Yeah, looking real strong. I don't think that's kind of a big downfall or turning point for Mouse. I still think that they are a team that, as we said, are struggling to find their style. Didn't look like that pole composition was what they wanted to play.
Yeah,
they have much more favored the hard engage, and honestly, I just didn't feel like that game sat well with Mouse at all.
Well, we did have a player to highlight. It was Wonderware from that game, actually opting towards more tanks nowadays, and actually had a 17 KDA on Maokai. Had one of those very few deaths that the team had in general. But yeah, his opponent Beansu, however, 0-7-0. So yeah.
Not the greatest of performances out of Beansu. And Beansu's trying a lot of things, but honestly, Wonderware's stuck with what has worked for a lot of teams for a long time, and we talked about hasn't been working too well in the LCS with the Maokai, but that's only if you don't give him gold. And one thing that Team Dignitas did fairly well was get the Maokai involved, using the teleports. And we've actually got a replay that we're going to take a look at with the teleport play out from Wonderware with the bottom lane roam from Senkux. So again, this is all due to the fact that they know they have the numbers advantage on the map. Senkux is already working his way down to the bottom side as well. And this is just another example of how you get a Maokai rolling into a game. You have to give him gold from somewhere, whether it's farm or getting him involved, and he wasn't getting enough farm just set up against the Ryze. He was down in lane, so get him into the mix, get him some kills, get him some assists, and if you can play the Maokai like that, it's going to work well for you. It's one of the best counters to poke because of just how good and consistent the engage is.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do against a Maokai that's fed? You just don't deal any damage to him. He reduces all the damage on his team as well, and then he CCs you every couple seconds. Pretty difficult to play against. Well, we're going to take a quick break while X Nihilo and Gamers2 set up for Game 2, so stick around. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the European Challenger Series. We're just about set to head into Game 2. Now, last week, we asked you to send in your big plays, and you guys sent in your tweets by the dozen. But our tweet for this week comes from @Feronis, who said, wow, that flash at Galio ult by Beansuit looked so fancy and brought Mouse Sports some breathing room.
It did. It really did.
A whole lot of breathing room.
A lot of breathing room.
Such breathing room, wow.
Actually engage off this.
Oh, Smitty, though, goes very deep into the tower and has now been taken down. The flash, the 5-fan Galio ultimate, how much work will it do? Quite a lot, apparently. And Cyro lands a big Emperor's Divide. Beansu comes into the fight just to follow up with a Resolute Smite.
As you finish your point from last week, it just goes to show that big plays can be big plays, but they don't always win you the game. It did buy them a lot of breathing room, though, but ultimately it was not enough.
True story, Stress. But remember, if you see any big plays from today, get your tweets in and use the Twitter hashtag #CSBigPlays. And again, you can see your tweet on air. Now, onto this matchup. So, with EXN, they will be trying to get their first win on the board here. They are currently 0-5 after yesterday, and they're going to try and do that up against Gamers 2, who have just been looking better and better. But first, let's focus on Ex Nihilo, looking at their starting roster. Morsu is actually now coming into the top lane, replacing Zazas, with Impaler in the jungle, a Godzuki in the mid lane, and Crazy Caps and Noxiac as well. And as we mentioned, the Morsu replacement now coming in will probably have some positive effects. We're going to talk about him a little in a minute, but I kind of want to touch on Ex Nihilo right now in terms of what makes sense. And to me, not a lot makes sense. They're an experienced team, but they're now 0-5, and that experience isn't going anywhere.
It's really weird. To when you think of how much experience the players that are on this team should have and where they should be, to think that they're 0-5. And honestly, I feel like all of the decisions Ex Nihilo are making are pretty short-sighted. Whether it's their draft, with the weird draft they had last week where they kind of early pick Victor, last pick Brom, which isn't too bad, but it affects your game plan very heavily. We have seen a lot of Victor over in LCK, but I just feel like a lot of their decisions, whether it's objective trading, their draft, just are very focused on what can we do for now, and not how does this affect the entire game overall.
Yeah, very much tunnel visioned. But onto their opponents, Gamers 2, with their new players as well. Smitty J in the top lane, Maxlaw now coming in, replacing Gilius in the jungle, Perks in the mid lane, Jesse as AD carry, then Hybrid now coming in as support. He actually plays in the eSports Festival, and he is going to be replacing Heaver, as you saw him last week. And it's interesting because this lineup of Gamers 2 didn't look like they were having that many problems, at least in CS, and now they bring in 2 new players. So how will that affect the dynamic of the team?
That is the million-dollar question, or maybe the road to the LCS question. Depends on how you want to say the idiom. But honestly, I think one of the most shocking things, I think, about these roster changes has been the response from the owner of Gamers 2, Ocelot. He tweeted on the day that they had a terrible time in the eSports festival in Belgium. Today has been a disaster for our League of Legends team. Definitely not the team I wanted to replace me when I'm gone. I'm still surprisingly positive.
Wow.
That is a very heavy, scathing set of words from the person that owns the team. And clearly they had roster changes that come straight after. So we'll hope it works at this point, because the one thing that we think it will do is bring a little bit more consistency maybe to the lineup, but it's a very big change. You now lose the playmakers of Gilius and Heaver, and you replace them with more consistent players of Maxlaw and Hybrid.
Yeah, but the question is, are they just going to be more consistent but have just like a lower level overall? Because Gilius, he had some high highs but very low lows. Maxlaw, to me, is just a jungler who is just consistent. He'll always do just as well as he will do every single week. Look at the bot lane, Heaver made huge plays. I even said it on broadcast how I felt like Heaver was the most ham support coming into this one, because he was always jumping into the enemy team. Whether he died or not usually didn't matter, because his team always picked up kills. Now with Hybrid, again, when we saw him on Copenhagen Wolves Academy, he was just a solid support. So in terms of consistency, you're going to get what you put into the team, but are you going to see anything impressive?
Yeah, exactly. Very much so like Dan from Mouse. Maxlaw is a jungler that we've had a lot of experience with out of the UK League of Legends scene, and I feel like he can be consistent, and Hybrid certainly brings consistency, but I think the thing that they lack is, as you said, the kind of playmaking engage style. So, I mean, the question is, can they actually start fights and who do they have to finish it? Because the biggest thing is, when you look at the rest of the team, mid lane is the big focus for Gamers too. And you look at Perks in the mid lane. Last week, his performance on Jace was really, really strong for the team, but it didn't always result in the team having the best of weeks. 10, 5, and 15, 40% of the team's damage as Jace. So they may not have somebody to start the fights now, but they certainly have somebody who can finish them.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the huge thing. Do they have someone who can get into a fight and not just instantly die? That's what we'll have to have into this one. But yesterday we saw 4 top bans. Remember, Morsu is now coming on to ex-Nihilo. He was a big player in terms of how much carrying he did on the team of Copenhagen Wolves Academy. So they banned Hecarim against him, Fizz against him, Irelia against him, and then they also banned Rumble against Mini J. So there was so much focus on him, and this was also the second Ezreal we saw of the day.
Oh, a lot of focus on mid lane, very much like our first one. And honestly, the focus was on the solo laners with these early game engages.
Yeah, and not only was there a lane swap coming through, but they tried to just immediately camp Morsu and shut him out of the game as well, and he was just not having a good game.
Nice set of kills picked up for them in the top lane, but 17 more minutes of Gamers 2. They slowly ground away the turrets from ex-Nihilo, and you know, they put up a good gold lead, 5,000 gold lead. It just all fell onto Godzuki's shoulders here for the outplay. Great triple kill coming in here. At this point, Gamers 2 are down 1 dragon. Keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, when you need some playmaking, Godzuki's there, and look at the damage onto Jesse. Blows them up with just 2 skill shots.
Just 2. Q and W. W and Q will take it. But, you know, ex-Nihilo got themselves a Baron. They take another team fight here, and they get the 3rd dragon of the game just previous to this. So ex-Nihilo are in a good spot. They've regained control of this despite the early game camping from Morsu, but that's a little over-aggressive.
Yeah, chose the wrong targets there. He had 2 easy kills in the back line, but didn't go for it. Then looking for their 2nd Baron of the game. Now, with even gold between the teams, ex-Nihilo crush Gamers 2 and give them a pretty strong hold on the game.
Or do they, Pulse? Because while trying to find position for their 5th dragon of the game to try and close it out, a little bit of a misposition from ex-Nihilo, and I say little bit, quite a big misposition, because this lets Gamers 2 right back into the game. At this point, they're down in gold. Gamers 2 have been leading for so long. Ex-Nihilo managed to take it back.
And after that, ex-Nihilo, they just scrambled to hold their position on the game, and it was just punished over and over and over again by Gamers 2. But again, we have some players to highlight. Morsu in the top lane. His scoreline is deceptive because he's 2, 4, and 5. He was forced onto the Jax pick because of all the top lane bans, but he's still a major player on that team. He pulled all of those bans towards him because Gamers 2 weren't concerned about anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it is when a team has Morsu on it, is gotta shut him down in the picks and bans phase. But we spoke about Maxwell coming into the jungle. Played the Gragas. Not exactly the most impressive of stat lines of 135, but I feel like he had a solid game yesterday. I feel like he gave Gamers 2 a good platform for their playmakers to bounce off.
Yeah, for sure. And that will be Perks, as you mentioned earlier, Stress. Azir, 6, 2, and 7. Not quite the 40% of the team's damage this time around, but still very impressive. Perks is a big part of Gamers 2 winning a game.
Really is. And I mean, I'm glad to see we have other mid laners that are looking to step up. I mean, we have the mid laners from last split with CosQ and Senkux looking to step up themselves. Perks has been around the split a long time, though, around the scene a long time. I'm glad to see him finally starting to get a foothold in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very young player, but he's a very old player in terms of like how long he's been around. And now that he's a little bit older, he's now in the challenger scene, so it's good to see. But this is the big question with the team. How much can they do with Perks being the only real carry on the team?
That's yeah. I agree. We're gonna have to watch to find out, and we're also gonna have to watch to find out how many mid lane bans, top lane bans, are gonna come out. So we had 4 yesterday. We had the Rumble band away from Smitty J. We had the Fizz, the Hecarim, the Irelia band. The swapping of sides now. I feel like Gamers 2 have to depart from banning all top lane champions because they now know they give ex-Nihilo something as a first pick. The question is, what is it? It ain't going to be Alistar.
Alistar taken away from Noxiac, and Jace will be banned away from Perks. Makes a lot of sense. Super strong on that champion last week. Sivir will be actually taken away from Crazy Caps. Crazy Caps is very much a late game AD carry player. Unless ex-Nihilo were looking for like a run at you composition, they have done a hard engage before. Usually hard engage to defeat.
Yeah, that, yeah, couldn't put it better myself. Sorry, Pulse. But
No problem.
you know, Sivir, as you said, banned away. Now Kalista. XNILO had the option of first picking, and they don't take the Kalista. Are they looking to first pick the Ezreal here at this point? I mean,
banned,
I don't actually like first pick Ezreal because of how big a statement it makes of going poke. So I don't think XNILO are going to do that.
Well, we
but
saw why it was
Godbro
bad
did
in the
play
last
it
Champions
yesterday.
League stress.
Did play it yesterday. So that's it's kind of weird. There's a lot of top lane picks open and available here. Now one of them is off the board with Fizz not being available, but I don't even think first picking a top laner is all that worthwhile in the current situation. However, saying that, I would probably first pick Corki here. Niels has talked about it. Kalista Sivir away. Pick up the Corki. And there is very little you can do from the AD carry role on the opposite side to actually compete.
Very true.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I can't argue with that logic, stress.
those are Niels' words. So if you want to argue with that logic, you take it up with Niels.
Yeah.
Because
I'll talk to him next time I see him in the studio. But yeah, we'll see what the first pick is from XNILO and what gamers to decide to pick into it. They're taking a long time to decide.
one day I want a conversation to happen on broadcast because it'll be the Statue of Liberty conversation with you like this.
At least it's not Mr. Alice. It's even worse, man.
Very true.
Okay.
Okay, so they do first pick a top laner. This is kind of weird. I'm just going to say it. Nobody is first picking Hecarim. In fact, Hecarim has started to fall off in the current meta just because, you know, ever since some of the changes to Cinderhulk, the changes to how the playstyle is in the meta.
And his E, yeah.
And his E. It's kind of become that Hecarim is an engage tool rather than actually kind of dominant top laner into most matchups. Still good into melee matchups, certain matchups. Not a bad pick by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see how long XNILO left to pick up their top laner as the first pick. They had nothing else that they wanted to prioritize.
But even when we did see a lot of Hecarim, he still wasn't usually first pick because unless you're banning Gnar, you're going to pick Gnar against Hecarim.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, and gamers too don't even need to pick it now. They can just wait, pick up their priorities, look at the Ezreal now coming in. Does this just signal exactly what they want? Will XNILO go all in on their engage, try and pick off the Ezreal now? That would make sense at least. Echo now comes in as well, presumably going to be jungle and Maximal?
Yeah, I would assume so. I think there are some safe pickups here that you can go for. You can go the Gragas Rek'Sai route here out of the jungle to pick up for yourselves. I guess you... If you take away the Corki here, which I feel like you have to, because gamers 2 at this situation aren't committed to poke, but they certainly have set themselves up for it.
Yeah.
So if you take away the Corki here, it now means gamers 2 have to kind of think twice about exactly what they want to run and run some kind of like hybrid composition. Those would be my estimations, but double tank setup has been picked up for XNILO. In fact, triple tank when you include the Hecarim in that as well. Now Gragas Nautilus. Going to be difficult for gamers 2 to chunk through. If they get a couple of magic resistance items under them, those two-shot barrages are not going to be able to 100 to 0 either of any of those three players.
That's true, but this is under the assumption that the Ezreal goes mid lane. Because remember we saw Forgiven pick up Ezreal and put him AD carry as well.
I mean, right now there's no reason to assume that it isn't going mid lane because of what is available with regards to, as I said, I would imagine you pick up Corki here and just kind of play poke composition. Gamers 2 still have a lot of versatility. They're not locked into playing one kind of composition. The Gnar matchup, as you predicted, up into that top lane role. And Thresh, so they're not actually playing poke. This is kind of like a mix of catch and engage with poke aspects so far. I'm still...
Could this be a masterful bait stress where they're haha, it's not Ezreal mid?
I mean, I don't know. Without something that is going to scale very well into the late game, I don't think it's a particularly effective bait.
Gotcha.
Because it's like, take hard engage. Oh, we have no disengage.
Well,
great. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, it's not exactly the best strategy, I would say.
At least they baited them, right? I mean, so they got that down.
Now it's on XNILO, because gamers 2, they're either waiting for their mid lane or their AD carry. Assumption on current meta trends would be they're waiting for their AD carry, but not a lot of teams last pick their AD carry unless you're going something like Vayne. If XNILO take away the Corki here, then we may see the swap around. They do take away the Corki. and lock themselves a Twisted Fate. We talked to Senkux about Twisted Fate, about how strong he feels he is in the current meta, and real interesting that Ex Nihilo seemingly feel the same way without any kind of low mobility carry to try and lock down at this point.
That's you want to kill the Ezreal there.
You do.
And that's, you know,
yeah,
perfectly fine. There's the Corki you're talking about, though. Stress. It was picked very late into the picking order, though. So, I mean, Gamers 2 had the chance to pick up the Corki all the way along here. So what AD carry did they go for?
That is quite... They're flicking over mid laners, and actually Azir is available at this point. To think of what Perkz has played, Jason Azir. So there are still other options here for Perkz for what he's comfortable on. So it's...
Look at that.
It does get locked in. Okay, so it is an Ezreal AD carry. Taking it away from the possibility of Ex Nihilo playing it mid. As I said, they had that versatility, but I don't know how I feel about picking Azir into the Twisted Fate. Azir typically will have a decent laning phase and presence when it comes to tower pushing as a group, but we've seen the Twisted Fate being played into Azir specifically by Senkux because of how good it is at getting into the backline of a fight, deleting the enemy carry, trading your own life away, and just kind of that's how the fight goes. And at that point, you've taken one carry out in exchange for the other, and the rest of the team follows up. That's what we saw Ryu do versus SK for H2K. So if that happens again, we've already spoken about how much of the team's damage Perkz is as a mid laner. If he's not in the fight, how do Gamers 2 win those fights? What we have to see.
It's exactly what Defisher was talking about, where you trade your threats away, and it's just like, well, we have another threat, you don't, and then we just win.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we've got the Hecarim now onto Morsu. He'll be playing against Gnar, which will be a difficult matchup. Interesting to see if they'll go for a lane swap at all. They do have the Corki up against the Ezreal in the bottom lane. This also does deal with the problem you were talking about earlier, where if they did have the Ezreal, then they wouldn't have, like, late-game scaling if they put him into the AD carry role. Now they have the Azir. So when you look later into the game, they'll at least have something.
Yeah, they will have something available, but has had to take the cleanse as well to get out of that gold card. So it makes it more difficult for Godzuki to get into the backline and lock him down. But certainly the Hecarim will play into getting into the backline as well. That's another aspect from the Ex Nihilo composition that is going to be fairly good at doing that. So I imagine Ex Nihilo are going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at Perkz and try and lock him down in these fights. Perkz will offer disengage to himself, though. So cleanse, Emperor's Divide pushes everybody back.
Well, have Gamers 2 built in enough disengage, though? Because it was obvious what Ex Nihilo were doing, because they were trying to counter out the Ezreal, but have they just also, by proxy, countered out the Azir just because they picked it in?
Well, I feel like Gamers 2 have excellent counter engage. Yeah. You've got Gnar when he gets into Mega Gnar. Parallel Convergence will zone out the rest of Ex Nihilo. If everybody doesn't make it through that Parallel Convergence, you've got just amazing ability to lock people down in one area. And Flay will do a little bit box to disengage as well. Very soft disengage when it comes to it, but it'll all help. It'll all help the cause.
Well, that's our opinion. Now we want to hear yours. So hop on Twitter, tweet at LOL Esports, and get those hashtags in G2win or EXNwin if you think Ex Nihilo will take home this game. I'll be checking in with those results during the game.
Yeah, I will be checking in on this Azir as well during the game. That's what I'm looking forward to. Perkz back on Azir. Perkz is back. We've had a couple of good games from Perkz on Azir. We'll see whether he can do it again.
All right, let's get into this one. Ex Nihilo now onto the blue side, sporting onto the Rift up against Gamers 2. Now sporting this Azir pick onto Perkz, swapping the Ezreal into the AD carry. So not throwing it mid lane this game, so we're not going to be seeing a Ringglaive from the mid lane at least. May see it elsewhere. Unlikely Impaler's going to pick one up, but maybe Maxlot. And everyone gets on to the Rift. Will we see any early game action so far? Judging by the patterns of where everyone is running, I'm going to go with not so much.
Not so much right now. We'll track that, but I don't imagine anything that early on from these two teams. So Jesse and Crazy Caps down in this bottom lane. Ezreal and Corki, man, this feels like we've gone back a long, long time. To the, you remember the Trinity Force of AD carry?
Yeah, welcome to Season 2?
Yeah, Season 2. Season 2, it was all Ezreal, Graves, and Corki. It was all you could play. Then all the other AD carries ended up getting released, and Lucian came out.
Yeah, then the Lucian
Kalista
Nation
came
attacked,
out.
and then Lucian was everywhere.
And then everybody remembered that Sivir got changed and got really awesome as well. So
Yep.
a lot of things happened to Ezreal.
Strategic
Corki.
diversity.
But it's okay, because Worlds is coming, so Corki's making a comeback.
It's
So,
Worlds.
Oh, it is Worlds, Pulse. It really is. But at this point, it's not Worlds. This is
No, this
EUCS
is
Week 3,
yeah.
Day 2, Game 2.
Summer split. Yep.
Yeah.
Great pigeon impression by Perks in the mid lane. Do you have the biscuits being picked up by Godzuki? Actually opted towards the boot start on the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. The Azir was picked into the Twisted Fate. We've been seeing... oh, that's interesting. I can't do that. But yeah, FLICKR we saw earlier is picking Irelia into Azir. We've been seeing that. Even still been doing that. Something that confused me is he has the option to pick Ezreal and then doesn't pick Ezreal. And then like FLICKR played so much Ez back in the day and then just didn't do it. It's like, why?
Hipster
Come on,
FLICKR.
man.
Hipster FLICKR. I was playing Ezreal before it was cool. That's probably not how it went. It was probably more like, I think this pick's a lot better in this situation. But who knows? Who can really tell what is going on in that godlike mind of mid lane?
He's an android. So Godzuki in this mid lane, trying to get some harass into Perks. Meanwhile, in the top lane, mostly looking to do the same onto Smitty. This is typically a matchup that that Gnar should win, but the early camp was picked up by Morsu, meaning he got the early level 2 for the early advantage. But over time, Smitty may be able to whittle him down. Bot lane, Noxiac just get hooked in by Hybrid. There's the Flake. Jesse not too interested in landing the autos just yet, as Crazy Caps is trading off against him. So some back and forth auto attack trading in the bottom lane. Nothing to write home about. Jungle though, Max Law on this Echo did start on the top sides of the map, maybe looking for an early game gank. Seeing a lot of Echo out of the jungle recently, as well as the solo lanes. And Impaler on Gragas. Picking up the crab as well when we back into his jungle.
Yeah, Impaler and Maxlaw in an EUCS game. That's something I didn't think I'd see all that much. Hybrid didn't think he'd see that hook connecting, but it did. So maybe he should go to the opticians, get himself
should have gone to
eyes
Specsavers.
checked. Exactly. But yeah, Maxlaw and Impaler. These are two players out of the UK scene that we have seen play against each other time and time again, and it's nice to finally see it happen here, because I think when it comes to UK players, specifically out of the jungle, I think Impaler has been the biggest name for jungle. Because Sing has been by far the biggest name for support, but maybe we'll see Maxlaw unseat Impaler in this one. Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see, Stress. There's still a lot of time to go.
I mean, you won yesterday.
That's, yeah,
And then again, Dan's in the mix now as well. And Dan did kind of out-jungle Impaler when Mouse played Ex-Nihilo.
Yeah,
so
I didn't even think of it
there's
until now,
national
but,
pride on the line
what about
in
all
EUCS.
these UK junglers coming out? Cool to see. Especially with Team Dignitas EU as well now being full Danish. So we're seeing a lot of national pride across the board. Jesse and Hybrid. New AD carry and support bot lane in terms of the duo. Before we had Hiva. Jesse played with him for a while at least. Saw him at the Nordic Open. Impaler sitting in this bottom lane. What are you looking for? Looking for a gank for sure. Gonna take a drink. Getting quite thirsty in the bottom lane. Not a whole lot happening. He's waiting for Hybrid to go forwards. There's the flash. Where's the hook? There's the hook. Actually comes in from Hybrid. Gets it down onto Noxiac. Drags him into the minions. Jesse's going to wait for a second before returning back to lane. That's a flash. So, successful gank from Impaler.
So, a reminder, we're on 512. The changes did go through to Gragas. Only very slight changes as well. It was slightly less sustained early game when it comes to going around the jungle. The slow was changed slightly as well. This was a couple of weeks back, so nothing really to take Gragas out of the top of the meta. That was one of our big discussion points, was it enough to make Rek'Sai pickworthy over Gragas when it comes to picking the first jungler into the mix? Seemingly no, from what we've seen in today's picks and bans, and the picks and bans just over the last few weeks.
Yeah. Answer, no. Maxlaw, though, is taking this opportunity while he knew Impaler was on the bottom side of the map to take away the Grump. In a couple of seconds, you'll see him disconnecting and reconnecting. It's all been sorted out. Don't freak out. Morsu in this top lane, level 5, has pretty much survived this early game pretty well against Smitty. There's only a very small advantage in terms of CS. Morsu going to walk into this bush, finds Maxtor. How's it going? I'm going to be jumping over here with the phase dive. I'm going to be walking away. And also procs his Raptors. But there happens to be a ward.
Is he paying attention?
No.
Maxlaw! Maxlaw, no!
We gotta go back!
Oh, dear. Well, I guess when it procs on one, and you think, oh, man, I'm not getting that Raptor buff efficiency. You don't kind of expect to, but lesson be learned, attack move, people.
That's the greatest thing, like when you have a trinket and you see they have Raptors and you just place it in front of them.
This is, I hate that.
Wrecked.
I hate that. That's like the most frustrating thing. When Raptors gets popped for nothing.
Yeah.
Ugh, all this efficiency
I'm
missing. Oh yeah, that's a pet peeve for me.
Yeah.
And the other, I'm gonna go off on a rant if I keep talking about that. So I'm gonna switch focus back to the game because that's a big point of contention. But a big point of contention for Gamers 2 has been Perks, and in this mid lane, he has gone back. He's picked himself up the Forbidden Idol there as well. So no real big power spike coming out. But interestingly enough, the other side of the rift, Ionian Boots of Lucidity coming out very early on for Twisted Fate. So that's going to allow him to push out Perk's lane again and again to allow Twisted Fate to roam more often now with a cooldown reduction on his ultimate as well. So not a particularly standard first pick here by Godbro, but I can see the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the cooldown on a level 1 Twisted Fate ultimate is very long. And once you use it, then you're not going to be able to do it for another couple minutes. Now that he's got it this early, he'll have another one way sooner than before. Yeah,
and the other thing is he's less inclined to rush a mana regen item because of the blue cards. He can just kind of sustain himself up. It's not particularly amazing when it comes to always having a completely full mana bar, but if you are pushing out, it does give you a good platform to work from with just wild cards getting the mana back again and again.
Very true, very true. Top lane, we've been talking about it, like there was a lot of focus on Morsu last game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of focus on mid lane as well, but Morsu has always been this like solo 1v1, I'm going to push, I'm going to try and carry from the top lane, but has gone for the Hecarim here. So I'm interested to see if he'll like stay in the top lane for the one-on-one or he'll actually like assist the team in fights.
Well, I
guess
feel
he has
like
to do the former, right?
I feel like he has to at least get into the fights as well, though, because they're so reliant on
the latter. Sorry,
he's so reliant on getting to the back line and actually shutting people out of the fight that I don't know if there's too much else he can do on the map, especially when you consider that this was the first pick Hecarim coming out from Ex Nihilo. And Gamers 2 did not prioritize any top lane bans other than the Fizz, so they felt like whatever that Ex Nihilo picked for their top lane, they had something to easily just go up against it. And in this case, it's the Gnar, which is a very standard matchup. So you have to feel like Ex Nihilo, they kind of had a weird picks and bans strat again.
Oh, Morsu with the one-on-one, but takes the tower shot and he's in all these minions, gets the first blood, but wait, the cannon minion is looking for blood. Morsu stays alive and gets him in the one-on-one, had the ignite, by the way, so Smitty J got just outplayed.
Smitty J was trying to buy enough time to get into Mega Gnar, but he was a couple of auto attacks, or at least rage points away from getting it, so took a really weird trade, just got clipped by the corner of the scythe animation. And that's why you put Morsu in your team.
Yeah.
Because Morsu knows these matchups. He's able to work very well, even given little resources. He will always find a way to work his way back into the game. That's what we saw last split with the Copenhagen Wolves Academy. And from it, Ex Nihilo are now able to put themselves in front of their first major objective of the game in the Dragon.
That's always been Morsu's biggest strength, is the one-on-one outplays, being super strong in his lane, but we've always seen him lack when it comes to team play.
Right.
Like he's very much stick in my lane, kill my opponent, be better than them. Saw him, and actually a stat you delivered last split, Stress, was how he's always up 40, 50 CS by the end of the game on his lane opponent. The question is now, has he adapted so that he can offer something to the team as well? Because it's great killing your opponent one-on-one and pulling them into submission, but then if he joins as a team and it's a 4v5, then great.
Well, to be honest, and to be quite frank, he has to adapt to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll quote Forgiven in an interview we had on LCS a couple of weeks ago. The mark of a top player, of a good player, is the ability to adapt. And that's exactly what Forgiven's done with adapting his champion pool. And now Morsu doesn't seem to have adapted yet.
Doesn't seem to be adapting to getting ganked right now. There's the Emperor's Divide, but Maxlaw comes in for the kill with the auto. Godzuki teleports in, but immediately regrets his decision. Impaler comes in to try and bail him out with the barrel roll. Gets the damage on Smitty, jumps in, smashes him down with the ultimate. Godzuki dropping low, turned around with the stun card. Double kill comes out for the Gragas. A 3-for-1 over to Ex Nihilo in total.
Very, very precarious position in that setup. It looked for a while like Godbro would put himself in a really awkward position. Flash in from Noxiac.
Can't escape the Nautilus. Looking for the hook. Can he get in range? Not
Just
quite.
too long on the cooldown. Just too long on the cooldown of the hook. He did get the reduced cooldown from hooking the wall, but it wasn't enough to allow him to hook again. But at this point, as Godbro looks to teleport into the fight, Morsu's already so low. And look at where the parallel convergence was set up. Maxlaw can't proc it, though, under the tower to lock Godbro down. So now the Wild Goose Chase is on. Impaler has more damage than Smitty J expects. One cask to rule them all, I suppose, is the factor there from Impaler. And double kill for Impaler is a great start to that 2-for-1 trade on that overall.
Hybrid.
Where are you going?
Why are you there?
How did you get here?
I guess we have to like CSI this one. Go full investigation on his position. So he dies.
Warding.
Warding.
I'm putting.
And everyone closed in around him. It looks like.
Hybrid has been charged with warding solo in front of Raptors and is guilty as charge. Impaler now has to back himself away as Maxlaw is getting himself out.
That's his blue though, but 86% over to Gamers 2 over Denial, over Ex Nihilo. It wouldn't be that if it was Denial. It'd be somewhat closer, I'd have to feel, but still, the advantage in this game going over to Ex Nihilo. Godzuki in the bottom lane, gonna get harassed down onto Jesse. Maxlaw, however, has found Noxiac, doesn't get the parallel conversion stun down. Will come up with the Z-Drive resonance damage. And Noxiac wanders out very slowly. We'll be able to get this ward away as well. But I feel like this is probably the first time we've seen Ex Nihilo with a significant early game lead. Or lead at all. Ever.
Yeah, I actually would go along with that sentiment. I mean, they've had minor leads in a couple of the games, but I certainly feel like this has been a far more controlled early game out of Ex Nihilo than it has been out of previous games that we've seen from them. Hybrid's ward, does it pay off? It does!
A death sentence onto Crazy Caps, gets the flay as well, but he just doesn't have anywhere really to go. And Perks will come in, get in with the spears, get in with the Sand Soldiers, and picks up a kill.
Hybrid's past transgressions have been forgotten. Proven innocent with that ward. It was the one on Raptors, and it gets a kill for him.
But who is he? Is he Judge Dredd handing out death sentences?
I guess so.
Wow.
He is the law.
Judge, jury, and executioner. Hybrid, 2015. Maxlaw, going to be taking Hybrid's free service.
Free service, just the Thresh Express?
Yep.
Man, the economic times.
I know, right?
There's an age of prosperity in Summoner's Rift when public transport is free from Thresh.
Not bad, eh?
Point.
Yeah.
I mean, like, by the looks of it, you have to pay in souls. I mean, I guess it's not exactly a currency, but it's
all right. Sacrifice your soul for a free
It's a pretty
trip.
morbid exchange on that point, that you have to collect other people's souls in exchange to power up the Thresh Express for a journey. But nevertheless, that's
pay the bill somehow.
I guess that's how it is. But how it is for Perks right now is fairly even on his lane when it comes to CS, but you can see the effect that he's been able to get himself involved in as many kills as Godbro has or Godzuki has. And Godzuki is the one with the global ultimate to get himself across the map. So Godzuki not yet kind of using that all that well to his advantage. Got involved in the first set of kills, so there is that to be said. But we haven't really reached the point in the game where he's able to split push on his own yet. So I'm not expecting all that much more from Godbro within the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I also wonder whether we're going to see a 1-3-1 from Ex Nihilo using Morsu and then Godzuki in the lane, and just having this disengage with
I
the
expect
tanks.
so.
Yeah.
Here we
Top
go.
lane. Can he get a range flash from Smitty? It's going to be Godzuki who's tanking the turret. Noxiac is the one who's going to be tanking it now. Morsu coming in from the back, gets them with the rampages and the follow with the damage, but Noxiac's going to take another tower shot. He's just going to have to farm the minions, and Smitty J gets a kill 1 on 3.
I mean, that's a Gnar with basically full Gnar bar. You know that he's going to trade that evenly with you, so they get a turret for it, but now they trade away the mid turret in exchange. So this somewhat makes the ability to 1v1-3-1 a little bit less effective now from Xnilo, because without mid turret, it means Games 2 can establish vision around the middle of the map a lot easily and allows them to set up engages. So it's an even trade, but I actually favor the map control for Gamers 2 because now they're able to set up for this dragon.
Walled over the wall. Impaler does have a bead on it. Max Law and Hybrid over the wall.
Does he
the
go
damage down, jumps in. Can he
got
get the
it.
steal? He gets it! Does he have a way out, though? Oh, Max Law's going to drop low. He's going to have to use the Chrono Break to recover his HP. Impaler back over the wall. The rest of the team is there to support him. Jesse is charging up the True Shot Barrage and nets Impaler as he tries to get away. Stood still almost long enough for Godzuki to take him down, though. But still, that's a dragon for a kill, and Xnihilo will take that any day of the week.
Yeah, second one in the bank. Impaler says, Max Law, yeah, no, you've got to still outsmite me if you want to be the UK's best, because Impaler, that's one of the things he's been known for, and we'll take another look at it. This was blind after the ward died, so last read that Impaler has is at 2,000 health. So he goes in, he's able to disrupt Max Law with the body slam, and get the damage onto the dragon to get the smite, and flash out. Okay, he dies to Godbro, but that's outside of this hypothetical 1v1 national thing we've got
just
going
cut it
on
off here.
Yeah, just stop it before that. But I mean, that again, that's a trade that Xnilo will take. However, mid lane, there was a trade, and then teleport got cancelled by Morsu, so we didn't quite catch the beginning of that, but Morsu reading the situation, knowing he didn't want to go in.
We're going to have to CSI this as well. The dead TF in the mid lane, no tower there. Looks like he was just caught out.
Looks like it. I think that's a fairly open and shut case at this point, as we take a look at the kill. Okay, so no CSI required on this one. Yeah, that's Godbro just pushing up.
Yep. From
Fair
the
enough.
security camera footage, we can see Godbro was overextended.
No people are putting ham in the server on this one. It's not quite as good security footage, but one thing I kind of wanted to touch on was up in the top lane, if we get a second, with regards to itemization. Black Cleaver completed first by Smitty J is something that some Gnars have done. It gives you a lot of potency in mini Gnar, but without the Frozen Mallet being built first, you don't have a lot of survivability, and that is where the 3 deaths have really come from with Smitty J. If he'd prioritized the Frozen Mallet first, he'd be able to work effectively against the Hecarim still. That's what we have kind of come to get used to in the Gnar Hecarim matchup, and he'd be more survivable with all of this pressure we've been seeing. So he's eventually going to get both. It's just a perhaps more risky build path that we're seeing.
Yeah, Morsu was taking advantage of that so far in this lane as well, even one-on-one. It's been pretty difficult. Impaler, though, going for this next blue buff, will be handing that over to Godzuki. 2-0 in Dragons currently. The game is even in terms of gold, but obviously the hidden stat is those Dragons. Xnihilo definitely still have control over this game, but it's still very even. You can see that even from the vision control. It's just all up and down the river. Interesting enough, there's a little bit more red vision in the bottom side of the map, just because the tower is down. But that was interesting. Teleporting horse. He's away.
Had upgrades.
Yeah. He's taken a page out of Max Law's book.
I must admit I've not seen that happen before, so that seemed new to me from Gamers 2, but certainly the ult was on the way of getting himself out. That was.
They would have gotten them regardless, because you are not interruptible. Godzuki.
Looked a little bit like Lissandra Claw.
Yeah.
The way it went. Okay, so.
I'm Lissandra now.
I mean, it kind of will sit a little bit weirdly with Gamers 2, but they want Morsu now.
Well, he's a one-trick pony. He can't pull that trick twice, and will get blown up by Gamers 2 as they follow up onto Noxiac and Impaler as well. Perks over the wall with the Emperor's minions, allowing him to get into position. The flash, the death sentence, does not connect.
Crazy Caps putting a turret down in the bottom side of the map evens up the trade on objectives. The kill goes in favor of Gamers 2, and they've managed to pick themselves up kills here and there and have brought themselves into a kill lead and a slightly down in gold. Every other real metric other than Dragons is basically even between these two teams right now.
Yeah, very true. Gamers 2 have just gradually evened up the game just through small skirmishes over X and Nihilo. Taking a look at some of the items as well. Haven't really touched on those apart from the Black Cleaver in the top lane. Perks has now gone for the Rabadon's Death Cat. Actually not going for Azonia's Hourglass at all here, despite the amount of CC that will be going on top of him, especially with the Morsu as well. He's just going for pure damage, just confident that he can blast people away with the Emperor's Divide, I guess.
Yeah, and the cleanse on top of him. At this point, his disengage should be enough this early on in the game where it's not a super extended fight. So he should just be able to push people back, and kind of that's the end of it. You'll probably see him prioritize Azonia's Hourglass as his third item, I would imagine. Very similar probably with Twisted Fate as well. So that when you go in, get that gold card down, get the damage, then use Anya's. That is probably what we're going to see in this setup. But Double Trinity Force has been completed, though, on X-Nihilo, meaning that they will have a fairly obvious power spike when it comes to things. This is roughly their time to fight, but they've found Morsu alone.
Yeah, Morsu caught out here will be ultimating right into Hybrid and Maxlaw, who will happily assist for that kill. And that will be going over to Perks. Morsu just getting caught out.
And this is the prevalence of mid towers being down, is Gamers 2 have set this vision up very well, so they know when to take fights. This one, they know there are 4 people from X-Nihilo around. No need to take that fight, but Morsu pushing out on his own when you see people on the catwalks on your wards, definitely a time to engage, because Morsu's never going to be able to stand there and take it.
Well, this is the concern, because Morsu cannot just sit in a lane and split push anymore. All of the outer turrets are down, which means he has to roam.
Right.
And this is an alien situation to Morsu, I guess. And just gets picked up by Gamers 2, who just move around as a unit. This is the 3rd dragon of the game. Can Impaler just steal this one as well?
Well, if Morsu's up, teleport wards are available behind Gamers 2, and I think they know it here. They're standing on that crab ward, though. Impaler can't get there in time.
Oh, doesn't get stolen this time around. 2-to-1 dragons, but that's a big Raggar's barrel, and the Ezreal ultimate comes across. The rest of the team is already dropping low, and Spitty J will be taken down. Jesse, now caught in the middle of the pit, just tries to kill the ward. He knows he can't kill Impaler. Morsu now chasing down Perks. Will he get taken out? Yes, he will by the Conquering Sands. Impaler and Godzuki still following after, but you can't outrun a gold card. And Godzuki will take him out with the last auto. 10-8 in terms of kills, a 5-for-1 for that dragon.
And that is a trade that X-Nihilo are going to take all the time. Only the first dragon of the game going over to Gamers 2, and there was such an important factor in this fight. And if we get a replay, I want to kind of look at the lower side of the fight, how Morsu comes into the fight. But look at X-Nihilo now. Obviously, they have a big amount of, a large amount of time where the death timers were still ticking up. Only really Maxlaw coming out now, but look at the health bars on X-Nihilo. They are quite low. Noxiac very nearly dies from this. Can Maxlaw stop this Baron attempt?
Well, there's the Time Winder, there's the extra ultimate as well, and the steal from Maxlaw. Give me that one. Godzuki now with this trade is going to die.
Oh, no.
Maxlaw, 1 on 4?
Yes,
Picks
he
up
can.
3 of those kills. Wipe the floor with X-Nihilo. That was an extremely risky Baron, and Morsu is the only one remaining. Has to Chrono Broke to safety there, but yeah. Who's the best UK jungler now?
Hey, Maxlaw says yes, he can, jumping into the pit and taking away the Baron. X-Nihilo, very, very risky play going for that Baron. They had just set the game up for themselves. They get the ace. They could have looked to go pretty much anywhere and get objectives from it, or at least set the map up for themselves. I actually would love to have seen where the mid lane wave was at, but again, X-Nihilo seem to be in control of the game, and they make a very short-sighted decision on what can we get right now that is going to benefit us in the short term, rather than going, hey, look, we can get a turret and look to back from this and maybe take something else. So I kind of want to see where the minion wave is. It's actually just barely pushing for them, but look at Morsu heading into this fight. Gets onto Jesse, half health sim already. Keep an eye, bottom side of your screen. It's just happening off screen as Perks is being kept busy by Morsu. Morsu has single-handedly dealt with both carry threats from Gamers 2 in this setup. Yes, he ends up dying for it, but look, minion wave is just in the middle lane. You can shove that through and go take a turret. Rather than playing for a risky Baron play, there was all the time in the world to take that turret down, and they get greedy and go for the Baron. And at that point, Maxlaw, this is an easy decision to make here. Impaler doesn't get the smite down. He wasn't, by the looks of it, expecting the true shot barrage. It was at 500 health while Impaler was in the Baron pit. and could have stolen it, and could have secured it for himself. And Maxlor comes up huge.
That was just exceptionally well played by Gamers2 to clean that up. But also, again, as you mentioned, a short-sighted decision by Ex Nihilo, which has characterized them over the last couple of weeks, where they make a decision which seems great at the time, and then bites them in the rear later the game goes on. And this time, very, very soon after they made the decision. Now, at the bottom turret, they're going to try and defend this. Should be able to do so. Not sure if there's enough poke just yet from Gamers2 to siege this turret, but they do have the Baron buff.
Yeah. They're not going to be able to take this, not without at least a good position for Smitty J, which they don't have wards in position for it either. So they know they can't commit to the tower. So this is going to be a Baron buff that is kind of probably going to get ground out from Ex Nihilo at this point, with about a third to a half of the duration on it down. So this Baron hasn't particularly won the game itself for Gamers2, but the momentum shift that has come from it has absolutely frozen Ex Nihilo out of this game for now. I mean, Gamers2 are likely to even the dragon count up when the next one comes up in 1 minute 50. And from there, that it's so difficult for Ex Nihilo to play towards a 5-dragon win without making sure they secure every single one of the next subsequent dragons as it spawns.
It's going to be tough, and yesterday we saw a very similar story where Ex Nihilo got the advantage. This time they got it in the early game. Last time they got it around the mid game, and Gamers2 were able to punish Ex Nihilo's mistakes and over-aggression onto objectives. This time it was the Baron, last time it was the 5th dragon. The question is, will Ex Nihilo continue to make these mistakes?
Well, in the team fights, one thing is for certain. If Ex Nihilo don't get perks to start, it's just a very difficult team fight for them. However, if they do kill perks, Jesse has opted for a lower damage build when it comes to things with the blue build of Ezreal, and Gnar has opted for a slightly higher damage build when he's in mini Gnar form. So with perks off the table, theoretically, Ex Nihilo should be able to kind of maintain their damage output for the rest of the team fight if the engage goes as they need it to, which ifs and buts, but we'll see.
And currently, Smitty J, Morsu has found his split push that he wanted, but it's actually from Smitty J instead. Impaler goes for the engage. Will work out though. Perks drops low, jumps over the wall. Will continues to survive. Maxlor jumps into the back lines and Will uses Chrono Break to get back to safety, but he's still being pummeled out by Crazy Caps, who gets the shutdown. Smitty J was able to take down Noxia, now coming into the fight. Morsu has followed suit by coming in with the ultimate, gets perks, comes past the soldiers, but now Impaler is cut off from the pack with Godzuki. Morsu comes in and runs down the support of the Fresh. Jesse jumps over the wall, looking to continue the kite. Smitty J jumps in with the Mega Form, but will also die. Jesse will have to jump away from this fight before the gold card is lit up by Godzuki. And Ex Nihilo come ahead in that fight.
With the dragon spawned as well, this should be a fairly clean-cut decision for them to take it. Only the True Shot Barrage can contest this. And this team fight was all, again, from Perks. This time he didn't die. He was just forced out of the fight. He had to cleanse Flash out over the wall and then stop outputting damage for a big portion of this fight before Morsu came in. True Shot Barrage!
Wow.
Oh! He stole it with a Q! Wow! Oh, Impaler had...
It doesn't matter if you die here.
Did Impaler not smite that? Or did he smite early?
It was off cooldown.
Like, did he smite during the
Right
fight, I guess, is what I want to see. Because... Oh, Maxlor's cleaning up.
Yeah, he's just killing everyone. Double kill comes out again. I think everyone was just kind of scrambling after that Dragon take came out. Let's take a look at that fight which led up to that Dragon, though, once again, as Perks starts off this one. Lots of zoning going on before this initiation by Impaler.
Yeah, so Perks at this point, oh, the barrel doesn't blow him backwards, so he's still by the wall and he's able to cleanse out of the hard crowd control and just flash up and get himself out with the old switcheroo with Hybrid from there. And Maxlor can't really do too much after the beginning of this fight, and Smitty J has so much damage. Watch him come into this fight as well. Doesn't hit the boomerang, but is able to output a lot and just build his rage bar, but it's not quite as potent as Morsu's to start this fight. And Gamers2, just without Perks, can't close this fight, but I guess in the end they just will take the Dragon from Jesse just picking it up.
Yeah, Perks had locked himself in the Emperor's castle. Do Emperors have castles? I guess they do. But
Well,
yeah, coming in with this
have
dragon.
a new groove.
And it's just the Mystic Shot, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no smite available for Impaler. It's as clear as that.
And no one was blocking.
Nobody blocked. Knowing they saw the True Shot barrage, nobody blocked it.
Yeah, that was just a straight up oversight.
2 massive blunders from
was,
Ex Nihilo in front of objectives. Objectives,
and following that, yeah.
Objectives that they should either A, easily have taken in the Dragon, or B, probably shouldn't have tried to take in the Baron, where they could have gone for other options. Again, it's short-sightedness on Ex Nihilo.
And Noxiac has been caught out along with Godzuki. Morsu uses ultimate defensively and says goodbye to his friend, who had died for his sins there. And now G2 will go for this Baron. Have been lit up by Godzuki's Destiny. Will be gating in near. It's a little too close for comfort. Gets poked down by Perks and his Sand Soldiers. The Baron is at around 3,000 HP. Can Impaler pull off the steal against Maxlaw? They're stopping the damage onto Baron. Trying to zone them away. Smitty J is dropping low. Maxlaw has to jump away using his Chrono Break. Impaler now starts off this Baron. I'm not sure about this one. Everyone's so low in this fight. But Game is 2 maybe a little bit lower. It will be Impaler getting the Baron this time around. So Jesse was not able to steal it. A 2-1 over to, in fact, 2-0 over to Ex Nihilo. And Ex Nihilo secure the Baron. What is going on in this game?
What is this game right now? Because these teams are just... The decision-making around objectives is just really weird at this point. Gamers 2 decided to 50-50 the Baron. They get it to half health, and they're in a spot that they probably could disengage. They probably could look to turn, but they kind of half keep damaging, half turn themselves away, and that's the dangerous point when doing objectives like that, is if you are not fully committed as a team, you can't expect the other team to just go, hey, they're kind of like half doing it. Let's just not do anything about it. So take another look at this. Look, Perks is around the side not dealing damage to the Baron. They're not spiking it down. Maxlaw goes back in. Jesse is not actually doing anything here and just gets himself out of the pit. So many of the escape abilities have been used by Gamers 2 that they have already forgone this Baron at this point. Maxlaw steps forward. He is not going to be able to get that Baron because of how many people from Ex Nihilo are around. And there's no way you can securely take that Baron at that point. They didn't commit to the fight. They didn't commit to the Baron. And they lose it after just grabbing the game from Ex Nihilo before.
You cannot be indecisive when you're in the Baron pit, because Baron will continue to kill you while Ex Nihilo just stand there and laugh at you. And Gamers 2, again, just allowing Ex Nihilo back into the game. But we've seen this from both teams where they have a stranglehold over the game, but a poor decision has capitalized on the opposing team, which is basically just handed to them on a silver platter. But both teams are doing it. So we're seeing this back and forth game where each team is being like, no, after you, I insist.
I mean, this is what happened yesterday. The teams just back and forth on the lead, and it was all through decision-making. Ex Nihilo want to fight.
Well, they get Smitty J, but Crazy Cats gets hooked in, and he'll be going down for the pleasure. There's another 1-for-1. Diving an inner turret at this stage of the game. Morsu now chasing after Perks, and he's just called out by himself. Godzuki used the gate and the Destiny to get in range, and just needs a way to get in range now. Perks jumps over the wall. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, everyone's duking it out. Impaler is by himself. Maxlaw will come in. Morsu now chasing down Perks as well. Managed to get him all the way. Tries to glide to safety, but won't get it. The horse is greater than the bird.
Okay, League of Legends 101.
Don't chase it.
Okay, 102. Don't engage like that in the bottom lane when you have no visibility really on the enemy team. You know through all these wards that they are not in the lower jungle area. You've had enough in the top jungle as well, and you have a Twisted Fate that you just used and you know they're running to the lane. Don't engage 3 versus 4 while 2 people are on the other side of the map killing the Azir. The trade is roughly even for the 2. I mean, they lost 2 on the side of Ex Nihilo, but again, they get slowed down now. There is so many weird decisions. There are so many weird decisions, if I get my grammar correct, from these 2 teams right now. This should be an easy dragon to take, but if it's anything like the other 4 in this game, probably isn't going to be that straightforward.
No, it will not, Stress. Let's see how this one unfolds. Impaler will be getting hooked in. That's their smite, but it doesn't matter. It will go over to Corki regardless. Smitty comes in looking for a Nara ultimate to come in. Gets the wallop down. Morsu zoning the backline and will be onslaughting of Shadows back into his own team. Maxwell will be using the Chrono Break to keep himself alive. Godzuki on the outskirts of the fight, putting down the poke. There's a slide, the glide, the Emperor's Divide, and gets the kill onto Godzuki. Not quite. He'll be taken down himself. Crazy Caps, though, gets hooked in by Hybrid, but they don't want any of this Corki right now. The 1-for-1 trade so far, but Morsu, he's back in the fight. This has gone on for so long. Comes in with the home guard, but he's locked down by the sheer amount of CC. Impaler now trying to get the damage onto Smitty as he escapes. The barrel will not land, but Morsu, he's saying, I've got this. He'll take down the annoying Gnar, and that was a 5-for-1 over to Ex Nihilo.
Ex Nihilo didn't use their engage tools to start the fight. They re-engage with their globals that Gamers 2 didn't really anticipate at that point. Perks went so aggressive with a really cool looking Tokyo Drift style, kind of like around the river play. Looked great, but it put himself in a very dangerous situation, and you can see how much damage Crazy Caps had. Now Ex Nihilo can actually get themselves a couple more turrets on the board. They get the inhibitor down and can look to back away at this point. Ex Nihilo, dare I say, have control of the game.
For now.
For now.
Let's look at that fight. It starts off with Impaler getting hooked.
Okay, so this isn't too big of a problem by the fact they've already got the dragon at this point, and Impaler gets himself away. Morsu going through the front door and out through the side is kind of like a really weird turn of events. He tried to just manually get himself into the fight here. Here's the slide play out of Perks to try and annihilate Godzuki, but it wasn't enough damage, and Crazy Caps kind of had all the damage he needed. It's at this point, teleport is already coming through from Morsu, and this is the key factor. No, he doesn't have his ultimate, but he does have Twisted Fate coming in from the side here as well to set this one up, as Twisted Fate appears into the mid lane, takes out Jesse. Rocket takes out Maxlore, and from this, it's all she wrote for Gamers 2, but man, that was a very weird team fight. Gamers 2 were not expecting the re-engage.
So where did Ex Nihilo go from here? It is 1 minute until the Baron. No doubt that will be the next catalyst for the next fight. And the blue buff is being taken by Godzuki in preparation for that. And the vision control and the vision war is now ensuing. Ex Nihilo look like they have the upper hand in that one. Smitty J split pushing in the bottom lane in full knowledge that Morsu used his teleport in that last fight. Smitty J still has his own, so they're going to have the advantage there if they start posturing around this Baron.
Perks is finally looking towards that Zhonya's Hourglass, though. So is going to look to keep himself alive longer in these fights. He certainly needs it at this point. He really tough fight for him after that Emperor's Divide play.
Yeah, like Perks does survive until like the end of the fight, but never has like the Zhonya, so he can survive the last little bit. And it's usually Morsu who's the one killing him with like a last E, a last ultimate, something just to finish him off. So hopefully with that Zhonya's Hourglass, when it's completed, he'll last a little bit longer, or maybe to the end of the fight. But these fights have been going either way. This has been an extremely bloodthirsty game. 45 kills in 38 minutes. 6 towers to 5. Lots of objectives traded back and forth.
It's been a messy game.
Oh yeah,
it has. Very messy game teams. When it comes to macro level play. Micro level, there have been some pretty big plays when you look at it. Perks' play just then. We've seen steals. We've seen trades go the way that perhaps you wouldn't expect them to. But on a macro level, the decision-making from these two teams is kind of showing you why they are in the bottom half of the Challenger standings right now. I guess Gamers 2 actually aren't, if you'll excuse me. They are a 4-on-1, so maybe it's an uncharacteristic blip from Gamers 2, but honestly, this will be a game to watch back and look at the fights that teams chose.
Yes, yes indeed. Impaler does get a death sentence before he jumps over the wall. Maxlore aggressively chrono breaking into the enemy team, going for this one-on-one against Crazy Cap, and Crazy Caps emerges victorious. Hybrid over the wall will be trying to escape. Jesse does manage to get out of the CEC with a Quicksilver Sash, but there comes the gate, there comes the Destiny, and Jesse will be going down. That's a 4-0. Smitty J is the only survivor surviving member. He's coming into Meganar form, but I'm not sure if he can defend this.
Again, Perks gets taken out to start the fight, and it's all that XNILO have to do in these engages. Remove the damage threat and remove everything that Gamers2 can do in these fights. That is going to be XNILO picking up their first game of the split.
Well, Smitty J is in mega form though, and he's trying to do something about this, but he's just getting CC to infinity. Does get the 5-man Gnar ult, but if only he had a team, then he would be able to do something about that. XNILO get the first win of the spring, of the summer split in the round robin. Their first game up against a 4-1 team of Gamers2.
It's a good scalp to put on your mantelpiece at that point with the standings, but XNILO, none of their problems were fixed. I mean, they had a series of good plays. They now can, I guess, to some extent, be happy with this first win. But at the same time, XNILO looked a little bit rough in that.
Yeah, but both teams did.
Yeah.
And when a game is that messy, I guess that's where XNILO then come out ahead, because they make these brute force decisions, but because the other team makes a misplay, then just running over your opponent works. But yeah, I completely agree with you. They got the win, but the problems are still there under the surface. In
this game, though, I feel like they had a game plan with the TF into Azir. Or actually, they had the Azir picked up after the TF. So
yes, but he was still looking to kill that target.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been the Ezreal mid. Yeah. So they had a very clear game plan where it's get onto the mid laner or just the carry, blow him up, and continue the engage from there. It worked very well, and when they did get the fights in their favor, it was exactly how it was planned, but honestly, there was a couple of spanners in the works thrown out by Gamers2.
Yeah, we're going to see one of those as we take a look at this replay. It's the Baron steal at around 24 minutes by Gamers2. It's just from the Max Law coming in here.
Yeah, so this is XNILO just being low, and then a true shot barrage coming through, and Max Law going huge, jumping over the wall. It's XNILO. At that point, you could see them. They could have pushed mid lane or done pretty much anything else on the map. I think the Baron was probably the wrong call, knowing the death timers on that. Credit to Maxwell getting himself in there, recognizing that it was the wrong call by XNILO. So, I mean, there's that. The other side of the coin is, you can get away with a bad call if nobody punishes you. But Maxwell did it multiple times this game, punishing XNILO.
But that summarizes the game pretty much. A team making a misplay, which is then capitalized on by the opposing team. And I believe we have another replay as we have the bus steal coming in from Maxlaw. Is around 32 minutes into this game.
Yeah, so this is, as you're saying, this is the second engage of the fight. The other point we'll touch on in just a second. This was the extended dragon fight later on where Gamers2 actually end up getting ace. This is the weird one where we're watching for the re-engage here. And you can see Godzuki gets forced all the way down and out of the fight, but isn't finished when it comes to his impact on the game, because Crazy Caps, there's so much focus drew them back. Morsu buys even more time for Godbro to get himself back into this fight. And look, he appears by Jesse in the top left-hand side of your screen. Easy pick up there. Smitty J is easy pick off for Morsu as well. So at this point, Morsu's TPs, they actually were pretty on point. One of the big talking points we'd had was, does he adapt as a player? Is he just somebody that likes to split push? I would hazard a guess to say this game he seemed to fix a fair few of the issues that he's had. I
would also say that XNILO have pretty good in-team fight mechanics.
Right.
Because there was good use of Destiny, good use of just abilities in general, but I've never felt that's been an area where XNILO have suffered.
No.
It's the fights that they've gone for have been bad before they even started. And no matter how well they play that team fight, they just lose because it was a bad fight in the start.
Yeah, I think that's... I think that's fairly fair to say. Especially with regards to how much experience they have, you would expect perhaps them to take slightly better trades. So in that game, they had two big objectives taken away from them. The Baron by Maxlow and Jesse taking away the Dragon. That has got to be a little disheartening for Impeli, you'd have to think.
At the same time, he did steal a dragon away from Maxwell.
He did.
Yeah,
I guess turnabout's fair play.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But either way, XNILO did pick up their first win, so can't take that one away from them here. But with just one more game to go on this week's European Challenger Series with Overclockers UK and Now eSports. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to our final game of the day between Overclockers UK and Denial eSports. And without further ado, let's get right into those lineups. On Overclockers, it is Kubon in the top lane, Tabasco, the new jungler, replacing Kondi-san in the jungle, Take Fun in the mid lane, with Celiva and Libic fulfilling the bot lane AD carry and support. And don't get me wrong, Overclockers had a lot of issues coming into this week, but to me, they don't look like a last place team. Like, they always come in with a game plan. Their mechanics from point to point aren't that bad. And when they played against Dignitas, that really highlighted the game plan point, because they had a game plan, but it didn't work out.
So I'm not sure that I agree that they don't look like a bottom tier team.
Okay.
To be kind of brutally honest, I mean, we've seen them have really good games. We've also seen them have really tough games, really poor games. Like, I would say that their lowest lows have been lower than ex-Neo lows in certain games. And
yes.
We're going to get to that in a couple of minutes, because Overclockers, they've had good games at the same time. They got a good lead in Game 2 against Dignitas. They got the 5 towers, got a good lead by split pushing. Problem was they traded away too many dragons for it, and that came back to bite them. And Dignitas kind of just turned the game on its head from there. So I agree, but I agree to disagree as well.
Yes, I think before today, their higher highs were higher than ex-Nihilo, but
Right.
after today and yesterday as well, ex-Nihilo have shown how good they are against some of the other teams. So yeah, now, not so much. But let's take a look at their opponents. Denial eSports with Wicked in the top lane, Kirei in the jungle, CosQ in the mid lane, with Woolite as AD carry, and his support will be a Wendelbow. And Denial, very different team in terms of their story. They played the split push last week and played it significantly better than a lot of the other teams we've been seeing try to execute it. And now it's starting to see that, like, Wicked's experience coming into the team and how they're executing their overall macro level plays. And likewise, Woolite as well. He's cleaned up a lot of his positional errors and showed that he can crush a lot of the lower tier AD carries in Challenger. And that's a question we asked in week 1.
It was, and he seems to have answered it now. It didn't really answer it against Dig, but now has kind of fired back. His week 2 stats kind of show that. In last week, he went 18, 2, and 15. 2 games as Tristana. That's what we expect out of Woolite coming into the EUCS. He came in, obviously, as a fairly late addition to Denial. But speaking of additions to Denial, Kirei. I've asked him, and he says there's 3 different ways to say it however you want, and I'm like, it doesn't help.
He copied me.
Yeah, exactly. But he came into the jungle spot last week. First real appearance with the team, they had Betong Yoke day 1, then Kirei game 2. Very short turnaround. We weren't expecting too much out of him, didn't see too much out of him, but I think there's a lot of room for him to grow in this lineup, and I certainly think he should be a good fit for Denial.
Yeah, I think so too. We've actually seen his teammates also do a lot of growth coming out from Copenhagen Wolves Academy. But coming into the game yesterday, Ezreal was banned, but he made an appearance in every game, just in this one, just for a couple seconds in Champion Select. But 100% pickle ban on that Tuesday game. Yeah,
Overclockers, they started with a lane swap to try and shut down the signature Irelia pick, and because of that, Denial picked up, in spite of that, Denial picked up kills in each lane thanks to jungle pressure from Kirei.
Yeah, it was just super good from this early game, and this is a very fast game, by the way. Despite this, Overclockers just kept pushing themselves into unsafe territory. They were just like chilling at their turret, being like, it's fine. But then everyone just closed in around them and killed them.
Yeah, I mean, look at how easily Denial pushed that tower at 17 minutes. And they had a 7k gold lead and a 2-dragon lead. Ended with a 10 kill lead, and honestly, it's a good job Denial banned Ezreal, because Overclockers looked lost without a map. They were hiding in top brush, kind of doing nothing against a really strong stack of Denial players.
Yeah, it was a desperation play that was just poorly set up, basically. And 12-1 at this stage in the game, double kills raining down for Woolite. Look at this play right here. CosQ goes super aggressive to chunk down Victor in his own base.
Wait for
just in a second. Just waiting for it.
Here we go.
Hey, and 1 Twinfying, a third of Take Fun's HP. And this is only 20 minutes into the game, by the way. Following this, Overclockers just wait in their base, and then they just wait for Denial to take the Baron, and then they lose.
Yeah, that was a very quick game in, when you look at things. 23 minutes, 28 seconds on the game time for that. take into account that LCS game time average went up in week 6 to 44 minutes, so in week 5, it's a massive difference, and massive difference in the performance of some of the players. Take Fun in the middle lane. On Victor, 0-4-1. It has been a long time since we've seen a Take Fun stat line like that.
Yeah, but his opponent, Cosq on Cassiopeia, just a staple for him, 6-0-1. You saw how strong he was in those individual plays. And then, again, Kyrie actually turning up big in that game. He was one of the major proponents which allowed Denial to get ahead in that game so well.
Yeah, solid game out of Kyrie. As we said, he's had extra time to settle in with the team, and the extra time has done well. I was speaking to Wicked after he got back from the Belgium eSports Festival, which they won. So clearly Denial, they're on the up. He feels like we just needed more time. We were playing the first 2 weeks of Challenger Series with rosters that we've had for a couple of days, didn't have the time to settle. Now they feel like they can really make a push and try and get themselves that auto-promotion spot to the LCS.
Well, now's the time to do it. We're only halfway through the round robin, so they have plenty of time to recover. But as we head into Champion Select, let's take a look at what's going to be contested. We've seen a lot of Tristana play from Woolite recently, and in the LCS, we saw so much Jinx, so much Cogmore, so many of these late game AD carries who had no escapes. Now he's got the Tristana, which is like the best of both worlds. So I wonder if we're going to see a ban there, so you can exploit that weakness. But Irelia will be banned out, Twisted Fate, Fresh, and Kalista. Irelia, of course, at Wicked, big Irelia player.
Yeah, it's synonymous with the champion when you look at it. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad ban at all, because although Kuban is a big Irelia player himself, I don't think you'd be looking to first pick that away from Wicked, whereas Wicked tends to be happy to just play it into anything. The rest of the bans, Twisted Fate banned away from Take Fun, so they really don't want that global pressure. Thresh, Alistar are fairly standard. Overclockers, I assume, will open with a support pick here, or a Sivir. They're either going to go support here or Sivir, because they banned 2 supports out away from Wendelbo. They obviously respect him quite a lot down in that support role.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing really well on pretty much every champion he's played. Livic as well, great on the Fresh. We actually have a lot of good Fresh players in EUCS. Pretty much every support player is great in our champion.
We do. I bring up a couple of other first picks here. As I said, the Sivir, because Kalista's banned. Overclockers chose not to ban it themselves. Junglers are open, but both of them are available, so it's no real rush to get them. Ezreal still available for this game as well. And Overclockers, they're going to build themselves a Sivir comp, which...
Haven't seen that one before.
Never seen that in the EU LCS or anything like that before, but certainly we'll see if it works from Overclockers.
Yes,
I mean, Siv's a great champion. You can listen to the video talk about it for as long as you want.
Yeah, super strong. What we did see yesterday from Overclockers was Nautilus top. It was the first competitive showing in Europe, at least, of Nautilus top. It lost. So one day we're going to see a win for Nautilus top. It was not yesterday. Nope. Wicked has picked up Gnar and looking for the Rek'Sai as well. Have seen some Gnar play from Wicked. It's another one of the champions he's added to his champion pool with the Malphite, with the Irelia, with the Hecarim. So he's just going to pick this very early into the picking phase. There's the Nautilus. Will Kuban try it again? Will he redeem himself? I hope so.
I hope not, because if Nautilus wins, I have to put up with that.
It's viable. I mean, Darius won with it. It's got to be good, right?
Yeah, okay.
That enemy lost.
I can see that.
Either way, Denial eSports, what do they bring in now? They've got the top lane and they've got the jungle.
And speaking of jungle, Lee Sin locked in for Tabasco, not opting for Gragas at this point, which is the still tier 1 jungler when Rek'Sai is picked in as well. That's really weird that you'd opt for a jungler that a lot of people regard as being a step down from what is first pick, or at least high priority worthy. So we'll see whether Tabasco can get himself rolling, because he didn't actually do all that much in yesterday's game at all.
Yeah, interesting to see what dynamic he'll bring to the team as well. Condi-san just fit into the team. Right. He was a good jungler. Will Tabasco do more as he's been subbed into the team? We're looking for the Morgana. That will be locked in. There's the Tristana again for Woolite. We're just seeing this pretty much almost every game when he can get his hands on it now. Yep,
4th game for Tristana for Woolite. Yeah. So that is, I guess, if nobody's going to ban it, and it's available and it's working well for you, pick it. I mean, Woolite knows how to get a lead. Tristana allows him to hold the lead very well and scale later into the game. Also gives Denial the ability to push towers very quickly. Tabasco yesterday went 1-3-0 on the Gragas. We saw him pick it, so maybe that is the reason why he doesn't feel comfortable picking the Gragas today.
Right.
Remains to be seen, though.
But where else does he go? Does he just always go for damage junglers? And if Rek'Sai's taken off the table, then you go Lee Sin, and there would you go? Maybe with Nidalee, something like that. What are the next 2 pickups going to be from Overclockers? They need a top laner, unless it's going to be Nautilus. I'd like it to be, but I don't know if it makes sense here.
They need something that'll deal damage later into the game. I look at the likes of Azir at this point. And then top lane, I assume they're looking for something different. They're leaving it pretty late to change them.
Oh, it's going to be locked in. Okay, I guess it is Yasuo top or Azir top, and then like Runeglaive Yasuo?
Both we've... Oh, I hope not.
I hope so.
Because in top lane, you need teleport. So that's why it probably won't be if it is top lane Yasuo, because Yasuo doesn't have an escape.
We'll see where it swaps into.
We'll see. We've actually seen both champions played in the top lane previously, so it's a weird one. But one thing that we've actually seen from Yasuo play is he's actually considered somewhat of a counter to Na up in lane, so I assume it's going to be Yasuo top. And when you trade very heavily with the mini Na, you're able to stop a lot of the damage. So it's a niche pick that we've seen in other regions, but at this point, now it's on Overclockers to not allow Wicked to engage with the Mega now when it's available.
It's funny because Yasuo, all the way back in the day, JWoww used to play. Morsu as well played it in the playoffs, up against, I believe it was Origin in their game in top lane. So we've seen it before, even by these level of players. So bring it up against Wicked's Nah, we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, I don't think it's a... As I said, we've seen it in other regions.
Yeah.
So it certainly is a pick that isn't just Kubon going, hey, I want this, which I would maybe attribute Morsu's to a little bit more. But, you know, that was the past. This is now. This is a different setting. And we get to see what Kubon can do, because honestly, I feel like Overclockers had to do something different here, because they just haven't been looking great. Yesterday's game, 23-minute loss. Not great.
They are now the only team to have 0 wins. Now that Ex Nihilo picked up their first.
That's not fair, because they've played 1 less game.
Yeah, well, it could be this one, Stress.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, okay. You're right.
Let's look at these comps. Kubon in the top lane with his Yasuo going up against that Gnar. You mentioned about the mechanics. She'll be able to block the boomerang coming in from the mini Gnar, make it very difficult for the Mega Gnar to do anything. Kind of like swatting a fly. Like you come in with the wallop and he's just like dancing around you. Pretty much how that matchup works.
Yeah, I've now got visions of that being what happened yesterday, as I noticed your Twitter with you and having a bug fly into your room, and you decided to tweet about it for 20 minutes rather than actually deal with the bug. But nevertheless, over on the other side of the map is, I guess, a bit of a bug. Rek'Sai. It's kind of, no, it's not a bug at all. It's just a void creature. But Kyrie on a standard jungler, Tabasco is on somewhat standard with regards to Lee Sin, but we kind of have already touched on that. We'll see how Tabasco does in his second game. But honestly, on the other side of the map, Denial have a fairly straightforward composition. They got heavy late game scaling. This isn't a particularly meta composition, but it has a very clear goal of get to late game and crush you with a lot of damage.
Yep. Azir, he's a bird. He eats bugs. He's trying to eat Denial, I guess.
Can we stop this discussion? It's really bugging me.
Oh my god. Yeah, we got to get away from this one. Got to hear your opinion on bugs as you hop over to Twitter. And which team do you think is going to win? Overclockers use OC win, or Denial use DNL win? And we'll be checking in on your opinions later today. So far, they've been ringing true.
Yeah.
Pretty decisively, apart from the Ex Nihilo game. That was not true.
Yeah, it was 50-50 ain't bad.
Yeah, it's a percentage. Let's get into this one. Overclockers on the blue side, Denial on the red. Denial eSports on the up and up after the eSports Festival. Can they take that momentum into the Challenger Series up against Coupon, who is now on Yasuo in the top lane? Let's have to see how this dynamic will work out as well.
So, Coupon can add his name to a fairly prestigious list of players, I suppose, that have been attempting the Yasuo in recent days. If my memory serves me correctly, Impact, I believe, even played it in NALCS, and I think it was one of the KT Rolster games. I think Sunday played it as well. So, you know, he can put himself into good company.
Impact with Sunday, Morsu? all these players.
Kuban.
He's now joined the list of top Yasuo players.
Hall of Fame Yasuo top laners right there.
Oh, Wicked going to be running away from Kuban here. Meanwhile, Wendelbo getting that sick harass onto Libic. Will be getting all that money. Now 15 gold in the bank. Selova finds his ward. It was placed down by Warlight, but overall the team's just fanning out, getting a little bit of early vision. If they can be cheeky and put down a ward into the opposing jungle, get some more vision, that'd be great. But so far it's just all up and down the river. Kyrie is able to get that one down just as Tabasco's walking away. And Wendelbo getting all these tormented soils down. Trying to get that extra value from his Spell Thief's Edge and his Masteries. Tabasco and his Lee Sin though. We have seen some Lee Sin play, but it's so early game, right? Like, you have to get an advantage early game, otherwise you just don't do a whole lot. Of course, there's still the potential for the insect plays.
Well, it's got the same problems it always has, is that, as you said, early game is his dominant period, but against junglers the likes of Rek'Sai, the likes of Gragas, he's doesn't really offer too much more than them in the early game as it is. And they tend to just offer more. We did, however, see Unicorns of Love playing Lee Sin. Kickers played it in their Week 5 games where they went back to Lee Sin Syndra and played a pick composition. So it's not out of the question. The other thing that the Lee Sin will do is give another way of facilitating Kuban and his ultimate. There's actually a lot of knockups on the side of Overclockers, or at least displacements, to get the Yasuo ult to work with. You've got the Lee Sin kick, you've got Emperor's Divide, you've got the Nautilus ultimate as well. So lots of ways of Kuban getting into the fight.
There is. Whether he can survive once he's got into the fight, that's another question.
Yeah.
Right, and Wicked two-manning the jungle. Tabasco taking away this red buff as well. And now Kuban heading through this jungle as we do have this lane swap in full effect. It is Warlight in the top lane. And now the blue are going to be taken away here by Denial. Overclock is heading into the opposing jungle to potentially take away those blue buffs as well. So they should be trading these buffs, so they shouldn't be falling behind too much. So
yesterday we saw Overclockers initiate the lane swap to get themselves more pressure onto the Aurelia and fall very far behind because of it. This time Denial have initiated the lane swap to try and get more pressure onto the Yasuo, and this time they're looking to pick up a couple of kills for themselves at the beginning of the game. In goes Kyrie, gets a flash.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take that. Didn't even have to use his own at that point, so real easy trade there. And now TakeFun walks in, wards, and finds himself Wicked in the bush. So Overclockers know that they can now look to push the turret because there were two people mid rather than on the turret. But look at how fast Tristana pushes turrets. It's not at the same rate as Overclockers, but that's 2 people against 4. And every time that explosive shot comes up, they're going to start chunking that turret faster and faster.
Yeah, Overclockers should definitely get this bottom turret. They haven't done the minion wave coming in as well, so it's right here. Denial, can they take this turret? It's down to 50% HP. Does anyone go top? Kuban has teleport if he wants it. He's level 2, up against definitely a Warlight and Wicked, and probably a Kirei if he goes up there. So he may just want to walk it, may not want to teleport straight in and then leave himself exposed up there.
Selova manages to wait until the last possible moment to get it. So, however, repeat gank in the mid lane. This time TakeFun. Ooh, Kyrie didn't quite get it.
No, he unburrowed at the wrong place, and TakeFun just walked away from it. So
and he used his flash for that.
Yeah, so now he's down to flash, TakeFun's down to flash. Cosq still has his, but he's not the key player when it comes to these ganks in the mid lane. Kuban has managed to reach the top turret before it went down. Kuban was looking for the knock-up from the Steel Tempest into the Sweeping Blade. The rest of the team was there just in case he landed a knock-up.
Kyrie is being very active on the map this early on in the game. Now it's Selova's turn to have the Queen of the Xerxai appear in lane. Now Kyrie goes in.
He's looking for the knock-up, but great spell shield. Great spell shield timing from Selova will stop that knock-up from coming through. There's been a lot of good mechanical outplay so far in this game.
Yeah, there's Kyrie, as I said, being very active early on. One thing I kind of want to draw attention to is TakeFun has opted for Barrier on Azir in the middle lane. Oh, Kuban actually got hit by that binding.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to die here, or he may die if he just jumps straight into the two players. Doesn't really have anywhere to run now. There comes the exhaust. The ward comes out as well for Vision. He's going to try and jump away. Gets the knock up the Steel Tempest. Libic comes in with the flash and the lockdown onto Libic, but there's First Blood going over to Warlight before he gets there in time. I feel like if Kuban had just run away, he might have been okay.
I feel like if Kuban had predicted had read the lane and Windwalled the Dark Binding, he was holding on to Windwall to try and just stop Warlight's follow-up damage. But if you're stunned, or at least, you know, if you're rooted and Tristana can just walk through the Windwall, I mean, it's not going to save you at that point. So that's an interesting, you know, trade by Kuban. But he knew he was 1 versus 2 at that situation. Now he's got Libic beside him. Black Shield, you know, is going to be enough for now, but Libic, I mean...
Yeah, level 3 versus this gank now coming in from Keyray, gets knocked up and gets taken down. There's just another kill going over from Denial. That was bizarre.
Really bizarre. I mean, Libic just continued to go aggressive. I mean... Kuban wasn't with him.
No, he was just
Denial
minions.
Just had the numbers advantage, and they knew it. That really weird. This game is starting out basically how yesterday started, was in the lane swap, Overclockers fell apart, and it's happening again at this point. Now, 2 kills already from Denial onto Overclockers. It looks like we're in for a repeat game, same as yesterday. And, that doesn't really spell a good time for Overclockers.
Yeah, and this has all been really started off. The momentum swing has been started off by Keyray. He's just been going from lane to lane, adding pressure, getting some summoners, and then each lane is just one for Denial. The question is, will they just go from lane to lane and manage to take down these turrets and have the same aggression as they did yesterday and decision-making, which basically gave Overclockers no room to breathe. They had no recourse.
I mean, keep in mind that Overclockers should be forcing Denial into fights in the earlier portions of this game because of how Denial need time to scale. Kozq needs to stack his tier, Warlight just needs to get a couple of items under himself, but they're not in situations to do that because of the lane swap, and then they're playing the lane swap just pretty inefficiently when it comes to the trades that they're taking. Yes, they are getting farm onto Celeber, he is ahead. There is a kill onto Warlight at the same time, and they're being active on the map. Take Fun once again pushed out. This time, Flash just becomes available for him, so he will be fine. But again, Take Fun is being forced away from his lane, and Kozq is just getting extra time to farm.
And talking about farming, let's look at the top laners, or rather the solo laners. Kuban is slightly further ahead in terms of farm, but Wicked is just straight up frozen the minion wave here. It's actually pushing away from him now, but he's going to get a lot of this farm and the next wave as it comes towards him. So the top lanes are fairly even. The mid lane is where it's starting to open up with Kozq with the advantage. Bot lane Celeber is slightly ahead, but with those 2 kills being down, it's created that 1k gold advantage.
Wicked is also set on about 1,300 gold right now, so hasn't been forced back yet, but Keyray has been caught mid lane. That's going to be enough for Overclockers to group for maybe this middle tower, but they have got Morgana coming in from the side, and the wave clear from Cassiopeia is just too strong right now. There's no way they can effectively push up on this turret, even with that many people there.
Yeah, Cassiopeia can clear out a wave basically by herself, even against a large number of people from Overclockers, and that rotation just didn't do a whole lot.
And one of the reasons that she's so efficient at cleaning waves and being in that kind of situation is you cannot dive a Cassiopeia with her ultimate up. It's suicidal to do it, because you have to front-on engage from that, unless you have a very efficient flank, because Kozq's just going to ult you, you'll sit under the turret, he'll walk away, he'll ghost away in this situation, and then just kind of laugh as you die to his turret and your minions die to the poison. So that's why Overclockers can't force that issue anymore. And tie into that, Take Fun, as I alluded to earlier, has taken Barrier, which means if he gets caught by the Petrifying Gaze, he is pretty dead, because it's not going to take Cassiopeia all that long to chunk even through the barrier shield.
It's interesting he took the barrier though in this game where there's a Morgana binding, a Morgana ult, there's a Cassiopeia ult, there's a knock-up that can't be cleansed, but there's also a stun from Wicked. We'll see if it works out though. There'll be that one clutch situation where the barrier was better than the cleanse.
Yeah, I mean, what Take Fun is basically saying is he doesn't want to put himself into any situation where any of that crowd control is going to land, but think he's going to be dragged into it.
Come on, Kirei. He's only level 4, and he's going to be dredge-lining himself to safety with a flash over the dead turret. The rest of the team was coming in to assist the 2v2 with Wicked and Kirei. So they do get the flash out of the Nautilus, but he was so close to death.
So Tabasco in this early game, 21 farm to 37. But it's all about the experience lead as well, as Kirei has himself the level over Tabasco. And you can see Tabasco is kind of forced to just assist his lanes, which opens the map completely for Kirei. No vision on this for overclockers means that Kirei, it's going to be a slow one until Cassiopeia gets there, but it should be a fairly safe dragon for themselves.
Yeah, Tabasco now heading for his jungle here, and is not even going to try and contest the dragon. Denial just played this game so exceptionally well, even from the very start of the game where they saw the Yasuo coming in against the Gnar. They lane swapped it and then no longer had that matchup. They picked up those kills early on. They've now rotated towards the dragon, denied the vision. Everything has been pretty much by the book from Denial, and overclockers have made a couple of mistakes which have been exploited, but overall haven't been that proactive.
No, they haven't. I mean, I guess we have to look at exactly what overclockers can do from this situation, because they're by no means out of the game at all. It's only a 1,000 gold lead right now. We know that Denial now have to just spend a lot of time getting items, stacking things up. This is no longer the same kind of situation as yesterday's game, because overclockers are in a far better place than they were yesterday. So overclockers, they have to use this Yasuo strength against the Gnar and kind of just almost chase Wicked around the map with being in position, or force Wicked to come up and deal with you is more of what I should say on that one. And just force down turrets using it, because they know the matchup is better for Yasuo than Gnar, so utilize that. The problem is, the distraction that Denial are causing with this Tristana is just unanswered right now for overclockers.
Unanswered indeed, and so is this push in bottom lane, because Woodlight just took a turret with Kirei, and now he's about to take another one. Kuban is the only one who's coming to assist, and this tower will be almost dead by the time they arrive. Only now is Tabasco really reacting, coming in from his bottom jungle as he comes in from the top side, so it's enough to push Dinao away from now, but they'll be back. They'll be back for that turret.
And the thing is, I don't even feel like they need to...
Petrifying gaze. I was trying to say pretzelfying gaze.
Pretzel. Wow, that'd be a tasty, tasty treat. Just need some hot sauce to go with that. I know a jungler that can maybe lend some help with that one, but oh, Celaver.
Yeah, but he's not lending help right now to Celaver, as he's gonna tick down from the E from Woolite. Not quite enough damage just yet. Tabasco does not land the Q. He was looking for the kick, but he didn't get it in time. Woolite over the wall. Wendelboe is here as well. Gets the Soul Shackles down, and the lock onto Celaver. Yeah, with the Dark Binding. The team isn't really wanting to go for that 3v3 right there, but is able to disengage effectively.
And at this point, Denial, once again, is just buying time for Wicked to get elsewhere on the map, now looking for the mid lane. Has some damage onto Take Fun, but it's not really enough to chase. But he's just a presence right now, and is able to just continue to push. Kyrie is going very aggressive, though. Here comes the teleport.
Bursting from the ground comes in. Another great Dark Binding onto Livik, and this time he can't get away. His fate is sealed. He's only level 5, still doesn't even have his ultimate. And from that, Denial will take away this red buff as well.
Yeah, I imagine they'll look to leave Wicked down in the bottom side and look to take the tower from it as well. He is probably going to cross over to the minion wave and push it in. But Kuban, meanwhile, is pushing down a turret. But he's been in this top lane for so long. We saw the trade earlier go from top lane, and Woolite has been able to push the turret down in bottom lane, get damage onto the inner, recall, and get back top. And Kuban never took that turret.
Oh, flash over the wall into the Dark Binding. Point blank onto Take Fun. Perfectly executed by Denial. The Emperor's Divide doesn't really do much at all. 4-0 right now on Denial. Yes, there is that CS advantage in the top lane because Kuban's been solo laning, but still, falling behind in this game are overclockers.
I mean, I wish that this was a situation where overclockers were even holding this game close. I don't particularly... Well, this is the play that can do it, actually.
Knock up into
that's
the
what they
last
need.
breath. Kuban will take him out. Top tower will go down. Evening up the turrets, the 2-2. 1 kill on the board. That's what they needed.
And that's the thing about this game, is overclockers, Denial are by no means playing a perfect game. And Overclockers just need to exploit that with those mispositions from Denial and just make sure that they're making use of everything that Denial have given them. Again, you see the top lane pick, you see nobody around the mid lane tower, and you've whittled it down along this game, and Overclockers are finally able to finish off these low health objectives that they've been working for so long. They just let a lot of things go in the meantime. This is now a good platform for them to build with. They've managed to close a lot of the gold lead that Denial had and can now look to maybe take fights here because, remember, as I said, Denial need extra time here to get their composition going.
Yeah, now is the time for Overclockers really to be fighting up against this Cassiopeia and the Tristana. As you mentioned, later this game goes on, the scarier they are going to get. This Boobuff will now go over to Denial as they set up for this Dragon. No doubt the wars will come down as well with only 1 minute to go.
So the important point is Sivir is about to back and pick up her Infinity Edge. At that point, really then you just kind of commit to this Dragon in 50 seconds. You at least commit to denying Denial, if you'll excuse the very awkward way of having to use that word now. Although I kind of do know that pain. Trying to say the word stress in normal life certainly does become
Your
pain.
ears just perk up. It's like, you called?
It's more people do that, and I'm like, no, just no. As Denial, they're going to look to take this Dragon in 25 seconds, but Overclockers want to engage in the middle lane instead.
Well, not.
Oh, Kyrie's going
bottom. The bottom lane. Oh, gets the knock-up as he's trying to get to the Sand Soldier. One more auto attack. Cosq just needs to get in range. Oh, it's the Prey Seeker from Kirei.
Prey Seeker and now the turret going down, so Denial actually forego the Dragon because they spot Overclockers a little bit vulnerable in the bottom lane themselves, and Denial pick up another kill to add to the tally. Now will swing out because Overclockers in theory can't contest against this. Denial actually don't have to rush to the Dragon with a lot of people. All they got to do is hold back Overclockers in the mid lane.
And also, to go towards this Dragon as well. Cosq is melting through this Dragon very quickly with Kirei, just waiting. Doesn't have the smite. Just going to finish off with a couple Queen's Wrath auto attacks. Mid lane, though, Overclockers are trying to push in. They take a Constellation Raptor camp for that Dragon. The second one going over to Denial. What's that? Kuban in the solo lane again. No one there to respond. Wicked now coming up here. Has opted towards the Frozen Mallet first, different from what we saw last game, where we saw the Black Cleaver being the item of choice as the first item. But Wicked will just do the same.
Yes. Now Kuban's going to back. He's got himself a BF sword. How much gold's he got? About 1,000, so I expect even more AD and crit, as you'd expect. Yeah, so building towards that Infinity Edge, picks up the pickaxe. Kind of wondering whether he was going to go for the crit cloak, but opts just for that extra flat damage. For now.
Sometimes you'll see the Blade Ruin King, but yeah, this time definitely the Infinity Edge. The bread and butter for Kuban in the top lane there. Tabasco actually opted towards the Warrior enchant actually on Lee Sin. Has been making some plays, has been trying to make others, which have been countered out by Denial. Question is, how much is he able to do through the rest of the game? Because it's now 19 minutes into this game. Has his relevance as a damage threat scaled off yet? I still think he's got a little bit of time.
I think so. One thing that kind of will track throughout the game is exactly how long or in what situations are Kuban and Wicked 1v1 against each other. Kuban has actually avoided most of them recently, and that was a nice attempt there onto Denial from Overclockers, but Overclockers have actually not really utilized this favorable matchup for themselves at all in this entire game. And that now makes the picks and ban strategy from Overclockers so much more difficult to play out. Yes, as we said, they have a lot of knockups for the teamfight facilitation. But if Kuban is out split pushing at the beginning of the fight and all of the engaged tools and knockups are already used from Overclockers, then it's difficult for him to actually get himself into the fight with last breath.
That's true. Yeah, teleporting in late can sometimes be beneficial because as more of an assassin pick, you do want to be slightly later as everyone is being softened up. But at the same time, you do also need a way to trigger your last breath. Well, there's the Celerar ultimate trying to get on top of Cosq. He will be flashing away. The depth charge will bring him very far away from this fight. Wicked now coming in with the wallop, gets the knockup as well. Kirei will come in and take him out. Libic is also getting chunked, doesn't have the support of his allies. Takefun following up with the damage, get them with the Emperor's Divide. Tabasco now comes in, lands the Q, lands the autos, flashes forwards, lands the last auto, and Wicked does manage to take him out. Takefun trying to respond with the damage. Celaver now going one-on-one with Woolite with the support of Takefun. This has been a very messy fight, but has resulted in a 3-for-3 so far. Unless Takefun can get anything else, looks like that's not the case.
Overclockers managed to drag Denial into a fight at the exact time in the game that they should be looking for that kind of situation, and Overclockers take a fairly even trade. Consider that Denial have had the lead for all of this game. Overclockers dragging Denial into that fight is basically how they're going to be able to come back into this. They have to take these fights. You can see how much damage Celaver had, but now Wicked has brought himself back. Takefun is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you're not going to outrun the Frozen Mallet there, Azir. And he will get caught out and die. The middle turret did go down now, 3-3 in turret as well. There's 2 Dragon advantage. It's not up for another couple minutes to go yet, though. Mid lane Cosq has actually opted towards the Archangel stuff very early on, along with the Abyssal Scepter. So, yeah, upgrading that a little bit earlier. Bot lane, though, Kubon, a little bit caught out. He'll be teleporting away. Will he get disrupted? I mean, Wicked doesn't really have anything, so no, he will not. But that is the teleport down, pretty much syncing up with Wicked's, though.
Yeah, that, as you said, well, there'll be a slight window, but it's nothing really to write home about. Overclockers, however, will exploit Wicked being down in the bottom lane with no teleport as the opportunity to put some mid-turret damage down. Only Tabasco got hit by that, so if that had been a carry, they probably would have wanted this engage a lot more. Now Kubon manages to find Kyrie on the flank. His Overclockers, you know, this game has started to really turn in their favor. They're starting to actually look like a fairly effective team when it comes to trying to set up these skirmishes.
It's now down to Denial and whether they can shift gears and go into a more defensive position to allow their carries to scale up, because so far it's just been aggression, 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 let's kill people. But if they can just acknowledge that they can't just fight constantly, then that might be what they need to do.
Well, nothing has really stopped Denial's carries from at least just accruing gold at this point. Tristana is on her way to finishing the Phantom Dancer as well, so a little bit behind the second item spike as Celaver just finishes his Static Shiv, but that's because Phantom Dancer, a bit more of an expensive item, but in the long haul is going to give more damage overall in prolonged engages. So honestly, Celaver is going to have a tough time later into the game because Woolite is just going to be able to just completely rain damage down as fast as possible. But Denial have slowed in this game, that is for certain. Towers are even. Dragons are in favor of Denial. Let's not lose sight of that. 30 seconds to go for potential Dragon number 3 for them.
Overclockers right now just need a fight. The Dragon could cause that to erupt. Key very far forwards on the front lines, trying to tag people with the Prey Seeker, get that vision. Cosq and Woolite are the ones to siege in the middle lane here. And the minion wave will be evaporating fairly quickly. Got to get away from that turret as it will explode from Woolite's explosive charge. Key just being a nuisance around the side. Kubon still in another lane farming, but he may be required in the mid lane, and he is now rotating in. Wicked has been caught out by Livic, or has Livic been caught out by Wicked? Key over the wall was looking for the knock up, but he wasn't even needed. Livic is already dead.
Just landed the hook, and then, as you said, maybe it was Wicked playing a bit of mind games there, knew that he wasn't going to die anytime soon. Yes, he was mini now, but Frozen Mallet plus 2 Ruby Crystals. And the Warden's Mail was enough to keep him alive at that point, and it's all Denial need to get a turret and now turn towards Dragon.
Yeah, and 0 vision for Overclockers. Their vision over the last couple of minutes has been lacking and also been taken away by Denial. In terms of just like the vision game, there's not a lot of upgrades of trinkets at all. Mid lane on Cosq still has just his basic trinket. Only now has Wicked gone back, so both teams haven't been paying a huge amount of attention. It's just been bought wards coming in from Denial, where you can see all over the map right now. Yeah,
they're also running that double sight stone style with direct sight as well, so they've had at least enough wards on the map to give themselves decent vision over what Overclockers have been doing, but the same can be said for Overclockers. There's been enough ability to put wards down, but at the same time, as you said, not a whole lot of upgraded sweepers early enough to clear stuff out.
Yeah, also a lot of pink wards now being placed down, so that has allowed them to recover a bit of vision, as we were saying that, but yeah, trying to just stay on top of that mini game. But 4,000 gold advances over to Denial in this game, 3 dragons. 1 tower advantage over Overclockers. They do have that gold lead, as we mentioned. Lots of items being picked up. I do wonder what the breaking point is, though, of where Denial will just be straight up stronger. Because obviously they're scaling up, but when does that point come where they are just going to defeat Overclockers in basically every scenario?
Oh, in every scenario, we're a little way off that, but I feel like the actual strength is very, very close when it comes to Denial just being stronger in most straight-up fights. Rabadon's death cap nearly complete onto CosQ is going to be a real big factor in that. And now Kubon's caught.
All Kuban wanted was the one-on-one against Wicked. Instead, he's going to get ganked by Kirei and dropped very low and actually jump back into the enemy team. Looks like Overclockers will actually go for this fight. Everyone has already chunked from the team, though. Libic is there. He gets a CC onto the backlines, but they don't really have a whole lot of damage. Takefun has been glued against the wall by Wicked. Receives the house as well. There's the Petrifying Gaze with a double kill in from CosQ. And now Seller is getting chased down. There's the Prey Seekers to assist and gets slapped down by Wicked's Meganar. A 4 for 0 plus the tower, and no doubt the inhibitor turret as well.
That is, again, Denial just taking another team fight. This time, they managed to turn it onto Overclockers and get themselves a fairly early inhibitor, and they will back away. But again, just Denial. Overclockers have a composition that should be able to teamfight, but they gave away so much early into the game that they've just been behind the entire time and never were really able to take many decisive team fights. They took an even trade of 3 for 3, but that one certainly Denial is absolutely squashing Overclockers.
Yeah, Overclockers showed some signs of life and now look like they've almost given up in this game as well, as we saw yesterday. They are still trying to just farm up, but we haven't seen the Yasuo do much. Like, he was denied the one-on-one, but then in teamfights has not landed like a multiple-man last breath following like a good multiple knock-up or something that would allow him to get into a fight. So, yeah, it's going to be hard for Overclockers to come back into this game, but Denial are going to make it harder for them. That ward died very quickly. Wendelbo putting more vision into the top side of the map. Baron may be the objective now. In the bot lane, CosQ may have found Kubon, so we might find ourselves a one-on-one here. Wicked is closing in, so Kubon's kind of up against the clock. There's the Petrifying Gaze. Windwall won't help you on that one. Gets the knock-up into the last breath. Should be able to take him down with the last crit. 305 damage is quite significant. Now he finds himself in another one-on-one. A new challenger approaches in the form of Wicked. Now Kirei looks to seal the deal with this 2-on-1. Tries to go for the teleport, but Kubon will be interrupted here. Now has to try and trade with Kirei, but he's too tanky. And Wicked supplies the damage. The rest of the team, though, there was so many members committed to him that he may be able to pick up the middle lane, or Woolite will just blow up Tabasco, and now he jumps in aggressively, but this is a good jump into Libic for the next kill and the next reset. Looking for Takefun, just needs one auto to finish him off. Reads that he's going to jump over the wall of the flat, sees him with the Rift Scuttle of Vision, and Kirai's trying to get in range, hits him with the Prey Seeker, tunnels after him, looking to go through this route which has been blocked off by the Emperor's Divide, but Denial are okay with that. They'll just go for the Baron.
This is going to be one of the easiest Barons Denial are ever going to take after that set of trades. And Denial have just looked in full control. Everything Overclockers have tried to do to just upset Denial's flow in this game has been completely shut out from them. And you know, Overclockers have been trying this. This Yasuo has worked in certain situations, but they never really have been able to get the comp running with the 1 versus 1. And Wicked is probably at this point, I would really say, is too strong for Kubon to even deal with, and probably has been for the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think this is a matchup that he's going to win anymore. Rewind half an hour, yes, but yeah, at this stage, maybe not. Hey, we've actually seen the Hurricane now coming in again from Wicked, but actually before the...
That's an early Hurricane.
Yeah, before the Black Cleaver, so he's actually just getting the added value from the Frozen Mallet, so he can slow 3 targets at once. It's very interesting. Because we saw that, of course, after the Black Cleaver last time he built it.
I mean, the problem for Overclockers right now is they're playing a composition without really a main tank. They've got Lee Sin, who has some tankiness to him, but now they're against a later game scaling double threat, well, triple threat composition in this setup. and they have nobody that can absorb damage at all, which means every fight they have to avoid and just give away objectives to Denial.
That is a lot of damage onto Libic to start off this fight, and everyone is just getting blown up on Overclockers. That point about no one being tanky could not be more true. No one is able to take the damage from Denial, and it's only Take Fun who will also be taken down. A 5-0, even underneath their inhibitor turret, and that's just going to be Overclockers throwing in the towel. Denial take the game up in the second game of the week.
I mean, another convincing performance from Denial in this third week of games. Certainly the turnaround since their roster changes, now they've had time, seems to be working for them.
Oh yeah, they had a shaky couple first weeks, but now, yeah, Denial looking great, and definitely looks like a team who could potentially even challenge Dignitas when we get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess for Denial it maybe is unfortunate that they drew them so early on.
Yeah.
Now that they've had time to settle, I think that's a really intriguing matchup that hopefully we'll get to see in the playoffs. But, you know, on the other side of the rift, it's another just disheartening performance from Overclockers. They just never were in that game. At any point did Overclockers really look to fight against Denial. Denial had such a big lead. There were those couple of solo individual plays, whether it was Kuban, whether it was you know, Tabasco trying to get it in there, but it just wasn't enough. And I don't know what Overclockers have to do right now with this lineup to really look at succeeding in the early game, because they seem to lose every game before it's even begun.
Yeah, it seems like back to the drawing board for them, but following their victory, we do have Wicked on the line to talk about his win. Hey Wicked, how's it going?
Hello there, it's going pretty good. We just came with a convincing win.
I can imagine. It's a really convincing win, as you said, and a convincing performance on Gnar. I think that's where we wanted to start. 7-0-10 to finish the game. Wanted to get your thoughts on the Gnar into Yasuo matchup that Overclockers tried to run against you.
So I think Yasuo beats Gnar. That's also why we lane swapped. We didn't want to play against him. And then we aimed at putting 2 against Gnar at all times. And whenever we didn't put 2 on him and he was 1 versus 1 against someone, he always got a kill. So we tried to keep 2 versus 1ing him at all times, pretty much.
Yeah.
I also wanted to get your opinion on the Gnar build that you go for very often with the Hurricane, throwing the Frozen Mallet, and also the Phase and sometimes the Black Cleaver. You're one of the only Gnars who does it. Why is that?
So I think you don't always need to be tanky to be able to CC the opponents and get a lot of control in the team fight. Like if you look at this game, I didn't die once and I didn't ever need to tank them. So I could just provide a lot of CC for my team and do a lot of damage with the Hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has worked. Am I right in I think that's 100% win rate for that build in EUCS. So it's growing on me, Wicked. It certainly is. First time I saw it, maybe I was a bit skeptical, but certainly I am enjoying watching the Gnar performance. And I'm enjoying watching Denial play, especially now in the last couple of weeks. You guys have settled your roster. I know we spoke earlier in the week. What are your thoughts after winning the eSports Festival? How do you see your team has grown, and where do you think you guys can get to realistically?
Well, I think right now we're the strongest team because we did win the eSports Festival. Then we played Dignitas in Challenges the first games. We lost our AD carry 4 days before the tournament and had to find a new one in 4 days and also get the synergy in, so that was impossible for us. So the first day when we were playing, we were not prepared at all. We had no chance, to be honest, against Dignitas. And then after a couple of weeks, we started to get better and better, and then we won the eSports Festival.
Yeah, I mean, it, as you said, certainly has been a lot of growth and makes our playoffs a whole lot more interesting with you guys on a win streak.
Yes, indeed, Stress. Well, congratulations once again, Wiccan. Congratulations on the growth and the team, and we will see you next week as well.
Thank you very much.
They haven't. I mean, they certainly have looked so much more impressive now with the time to settle, and now it really does... It's on playoffs to see I mean, Wicked says they're better than Team Dignitas. The results in the last week show that. The scoreboard from Challenger Series doesn't, but as Wicked was saying.
Yeah. All we need to see now is just see the teams play each other.
Yeah.
That's all we need to see. And it's going to be a couple weeks off seeing that, but I'm very excited because there's going to be more growth between now and the playoffs, and even from Team Dignitas. They've been looking better from week to week against every team they've played. So, yeah, very excited on that one. But that does round out all of our games for week 3. So let's pull up the standings and see where everyone is sitting. At the top of the scoreboard, Team Dignitas EU 6-0. closely followed by Dinao eSports after their rise, and Gamers 2 after their loss today. Then Mouse eSports sitting in the middle of the pack, and Ex Nihilo with their very first win on the board, and now Overclockers are the only one without a win.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in for Overclockers, but we'll find out next week if they can maybe undo that, or at least get themselves a win on the board. Because next week we'll be recapping the action from Tuesday's games, and then we'll start off Wednesday's broadcast with Mouse versus the now winless Overclockers, so don't miss that one.
Yeah, and then right after that, it's Game 2 for Dinao eSports taking on Gamers 2, and then we'll be concluding the day with Ex Nihilo versus Team Dignitas EU. The action starts all over again at 1800 CET.
Now, if you missed any of today's games or want to watch any of yesterday's or any of the Tuesday's games in full, head over to lolesports.com for the VODs and much more. You can get every region. We're on the road to Worlds, LPL, LCK. Get all of the League of Legends.
Insanity. Well, if that wasn't enough League of Legends action for you, tune in again at 12 a.m. CET or 3 p.m. Pacific time for Primetime League. Yeah,
I'll be joining Pyrotechnics to talk about Fnatic and everything EU LCS a little bit later on today. And after that, Freak and Zyrene will be bringing you week 3 of their Challenger Series from over the pond in North America.
Well, that's all from us here at the European Challenger Series. So from myself, Stress, and the Challenger broadcast team, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday. They also have damage from Senkooks as well. The flash into the lockdown onto Cedrian, Mountain and Beansy trying to put down the damage as they retreat. Sayo is now joining the fight as well, but Nisbet is the one taking point. Kobe coming in from the sidelines, does have the on the hunt, gets the move and speed out. The flash into the bowler, does not connect, flashed away from Mountain, but not before Beans, who gets taken down underneath the turret. That's 2 out of 2 ultimates, which have landed onto him, but there's another engage onto Beansu, this time underneath the turret. Is there enough return fire from Mouse to do anything against Team Dignitas? Senkooks comes in for a play, looks to take down Cedrian.
Doesn't seem to have adapted yet.
Doesn't seem to be adapting to getting ganked right now. There's the Emperor's Divide, but Maxlaw comes in for the kill with the auto. Godzuki teleports in, but immediately regrets his decision. Impaler comes in to try and bail him out with the barrel roll. Gets the damage onto Smitty, jumps in, smashes him down with the ultimate. Godzuki dropping low, turned around with the stun card for life. Godzuki on the outskirts of the fight, putting down the poke. There's the slide, the glide, the Emperor's Divide, and gets the kill onto Godzuki. Not quite, he'll be taken